Hello?
Hey, what's up?
I need your help. Can you come here?
I can't. I'm buying clothes.
Alright, well, hurry up and come over here.
I can't find them.
What do you mean you can't find them?
I can't find them. There's only soup.
What do you mean there's only soup?
It means there's only soup.
Well, then get out of the soup aisle!
All right, you don't have to shout at me. There's more soup.
What do you mean there's more soup?
There's just more soup.
Go into the next aisle!
There's still soup.
Where are you right now?
I'm at soup.
What do you mean you're at soup?
I mean I'm at soup.
What store are you in?
I'm at the soup store.
Why are you buying clothes at the soup store?
Fuck you.
Welcome back to the tea time, everyone. It's me again, Mel and Katherine.
It's Katherine again. Mel has not found a new co-host in between months.
Nah, we're still just kidding. All right. It's another month, and
it's another month.
Another.
So true.
I'm not good at hosting, to be honest.
I'm not any better. Don't worry about it.
I need someone else who can do this for me, even if they're not actually
Okay.
on.
Yeah. We're here to talk about the middle of Code Geass Season 1.
Yeah. These episodes got me so excited I started running around the harbor, I guess. Question mark.
So true.
It was good timing because on the main pod we have like our bi-monthly Detour Quarry, which is like a break from Ultraman. And so we watched Memor Oshi's The Red Spectacles.
Okay. Sorry, when you say bi-monthly, do you mean once every 2 weeks or once every 2 months? This always trips me up.
Once every 2 months.
Okay.
Semi-monthly is, I guess languages means that some people use it both ways, but I in my head I go semi-monthly is bi-weekly, and every 2 months is bi-monthly. But regardless, what happened was we were recording last Sunday, and then my power went out mid-recording. So we finished the recording yesterday, which meant I had a lot more time to only do BS, basically. And then I spent like 6 hours writing summaries because I probably wrote too much. But we'll get to that.
Right.
I was like, I know, I did it like I'll do it the way I did last time, and then I got hung up on I don't know which details are going to be important, so I just kind of wrote everything, and so now we have like 11 pages of summaries.
No,
I kind
of, the thing is, Code Geass has a lot of subplots, and I think relative to other mecha things, less of individual episodes are like battle rages, you know?
Yeah. I had this thing like I've also on the main pod like doing my solo tea time, you can call it, which is I'm also watching Evangelion as a backup show on my own.
Right.
And that show has a lot of stuff, especially in the episodes where there isn't a battle, because when there isn't a battle, I have to talk about what the characters are doing, which is just a lot more stuff. And Code Geass is like that, but like somehow times 10, because there's just so much happening, and also it's frustrating because like sometimes they'll be like, oh yeah, this is the singular scene of Oki and Valletta for this entire episode, but I do have to comment on it because it does advance the subplot forward.
Yes, it's a recurring plot line.
And like maybe if I did like one big batch or one or two big summaries for the entire thing, maybe it'd be kind of thing where I could be like, okay, also this is a plot that's happening, and I don't know, maybe I have to rethink maybe how to do it, because truly this is the show where everything happens so much.
It's true. Everything happens so goddamn much in Code Geass.
But before we get to those adventures, what have you been up to in the intervening month?
What have I been up to in the intervening month? Not all that much. As of last night, I caught up on Arknights. Like, I've read every story chapter and every event that isn't a collab event, because I skipped the Dungeon Meshi collab. Because I haven't read Dungeon Meshi.
Yeah, that's
or
reasonable.
seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So now that I'm finally done with this big project that has dominated the last 7 months of my life, obviously I'll still read new events and chapters as they come out, but that's like one a month. The vibe is a bit different.
Yeah.
Now I will be able to say I've done other things.
Yeah, I have not gotten far in Arknights, but I'm also I'm just picking away at it. I'm not like doing the deep dive.
Right.
Even though I do have like some of the pressure to be like, well, I have no idea when that Moon Archive Arknights episode is going to drop, but also I can't realistically do that.
Yeah. No, I think that's totally fair.
Part of this is also, well, if you had nothing else to add. Do you have anything to add about like Arknights generally?
I think Arknights is great. I think if you are like not completely put off by the idea of playing a gacha game, or if you are the type of person who can watch a gacha story on YouTube, which is me, but I know a lot of people aren't like that.
Yeah, I think I once. I feel like I theoretically should be able to, but one, I struggle, and two, the text in those cutscenes is just so small that's just really hard when I try to watch it on YouTube.
Interesting. I never had this problem, but like I can imagine somebody having that issue,
That said, I feel like one issue I also have with Arknights is one, they have auto, which goes times 2 speed, and also if you hold it, you can go different speeds. And times 2 speed sometimes feels too slow, and times 4 speed feels like it's half the time is too fast. And like I wish there was a times 3 speed. Just, for me,
that's really funny, but like that does make sense. I see how you get there.
Yeah. I guess I'm also like, well, I kind of wanted to fuck with the Arknights gameplay, and I guess, I am doing that, but also having to engage with the gameplay does mean that it's going to take longer because I have to play maps.
Yes, it is, I think, one of the more gameplay-intensive gotchas. Like, even in early maps, you kind of have to use your brain at least a little bit to figure out how to clear them.
Having to, like, basically learn the game through doing the Ava Musica collab was quite something, because it's just like, this is hard even for collab standards. Like...
Yes, yeah. Oh
everyone was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. Like, you don't really... it's not like an impossible event. I think especially on a built account, you're not really gonna struggle.
Yeah. Or I just borrow Fenn's Wisdom.
Or you just borrow Fenn's Wisdom.
Which is how I've solved most of my problems in the game so far. Thank you, Fen.
That's totally fair. I think it is worth not doing this sometimes, just so you can, like, properly internalize.
Well, yeah, because sometimes they're aerial units, so I have to borrow Summon's Luminance.
Yes.
I've actually rolled Lumen now, so I'm able to, like, I can use her even if she's not, like, fully upgraded, like the one I can get in support, but just having her means I can have a space I can fill, and I could use a different support in this context. But
yes, so I've been Arknights maxing. I'm probably gonna go on a Yuri light novels binge now, because I told myself I was gonna do that after I catch up on Arknights. I'm gonna, I think I've had enough of a Kamen Rider break, so I'm probably gonna start Kamen Rider, is it V3 or G3? Whatever
V3.
The one that comes right after. Yes, thank you.
V3, G3 is from Agito.
Yeah, no, I was thinking of the G3 Gundam, I think.
I forgot about the G3 Gundam.
It's Amuro's upgrade in the 0079 novels. It's like the RX 78-2, but it's kind of like gray. Have you ever seen this?
I might have seen it and just forgot about it. If it's from the novels, then I think it's more... Okay, yeah. Because I'm like, oh, this sounds like another fake MSV thing, and then I see it's like, oh, it's from the novels? Well, okay, that's real. It's more real to me, because I trust... Because it's a Tomino thing.
Yeah. Yes, because it's a Tomino novel.
Yeah. I feel like it'd be fun to, like, one day for me to go through the Tomino novels, for Gundam, at least.
Yeah, I mean, okay, hold on. I'm putting that in internal list of things we could theoretically do after we finish Code Geass.
We have many options. I have plenty. I mean, we have a spreadsheet,
Yes.
so I can probably add to the list of...
Yeah, just add that to the spreadsheet, because I also have not read any of those, and I think at this point, basically all of them are translated, so...
Yeah. Like, I think not a podcast I, like, really listen to, but I think, like, Giant Robot FM did, like, a Tomino book club thing, or the middle of it.
Right.
Okay. Anyway. I guess, I don't know. What novels were you thinking of reading?
I'm gonna do Watanare, Arashima, Hatsukis, and Shukura. And I might also do Other Side Picnic, just to throw it in there.
Yeah, I'm lazy, but, like, I have had, like, both Other Side and Arashima as, like, oh, I should get through this at some point.
Right.
Other Side partly because I just like Roadside Picnic as a book, and so there's the appeal there for me. Like, oh yeah, I like Stalker.
I should watch Stalker someday.
It's good. And Solaris is also good.
Yes, I believe it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just need to find time to read. That's the problem. And usually when I read these days, it's theory, which is a weird situation to be in. But yeah, I should read more fictional books. Though I also
Yes.
stuck in like.
Yes. No, a non-fiction book and fiction book just occupy different spaces in my mind, you know?
Yeah, but also it does take the same like slot of like I have to spend time on this.
Right. No, that totally makes sense.
Also, it's hard to read books when you're reading visual novels, which I guess can transition into what I've been doing.
Yeah, what have you been doing?
Well, unfortunately, I find myself ping-ponging between two big VN projects because of things beyond my control, parentheses, asterisks. So, for instance, I did finish, as did Fate Moon Archive, I finished Album 2 Introductory Chapter. And the last hour of that is fucking crazy.
It's crazy. You know what's good? White Album 2.
I'm not an NTR person, but also this does make me see the appeal a bit. Because like the entire it's a lot of slow burn building things up to halfway point / 2/3 point, only to have the train crash in slow motion in the last third. And
right,
like the entire last section of the phone going off during the arrow scene, and then the next day they have the conversation on the train where neither wants to blame the other, culminating in the fucking makeout at the fucking airport while she watches.
It's peak.
And then the first person POV CG of her shoes going, oh, why did it be like this? I'm like, god damn, that's crazy. Yeah. Very good. I'm only like a few days into closing chapter, but it's like hard to know what to expect because it's like the vibe is a bit different, but also it's like, well, it's taking place 3 years after, and we do gotta kill Haruki. He does need to be beaten with hammers, but we shall see where it goes.
You'll see.
He does not deserve all the friends he has around him.
Completely understandable position.
Just like fucking walks past us and it's like, dude, you're such an ass. He's like, oh, hate me.
He's all.
I do like Takia being like, man, they should have just broken up already. Like, come on, this is crazy. And he's still leaning even in his 20s.
It's true.
And more substantively, though, I did finish Umineko episode 2.
Oh, how did you find that one?
That one was also crazy. It's hard to know where to begin because it's sort of like, well, it is the thing that follows up chapter 1, which means, well, I guess for starters, oh hey, Beatrice is here now. Not just as a force in the plot, but also she just like rocks up and is like, hey, I'm here at the mansion. And then I think I kind of knew something like this might happen because, well, there is a fighting game, but also it is just like does catch you off guard when suddenly the fucking Fate Stay Night magic fights start happening for some reason with goat guys, and like Kennen brings out his fucking Halo sword.
Yes.
And I'm like, this doesn't feel like Higurashi anymore. It feels quite different.
That is true. But Higurashi does have, like, Satoko, like, 9-year-old girl beat a, like, trained military unit. So...
That is true. That the entire... Like, the... Chapter 8 of Higurashi is very strange.
Yeah,
In that,
I mostly enjoy Higurashi, but I don't know if I like Chapter 8 very much.
I like it, parentheses, but it's also definitely not my favorite chapter. It, like, has, like, a,
That's
you know,
fair.
it opens strong with, like, the Takano backstory stuff. And I guess it's nice everyone gets a happy ending, but also it sure is the everything too perfect in, like, a way that's kind of ridiculous.
Right.
And also, Ire sucks. That's, you know, unfortunately, it exists.
Yeah.
But,
True.
yeah. I heard that he literally rewrote episode 3 of Umineko because episode 2 was just, the mystery was too hard.
Yes.
Which is true. It is just like, well, here's these 4 locked rooms that you don't know how to deal with, on top of the weird goat guys, and then in the end, everyone gets eaten by goats, which is like, well, that's crazy. That and then, you know, Battler's like humiliation kink. That's a it's a crazy way to end things. Rosa is a complicated character to ponder.
Yeah, I love Rosa. She is very awful at times, but I do love her.
Yeah, it's like, it's tricky because it's like, it's, you know, because I also like started a little bit of episode 3. Like, her siblings just treat her like shit for no reason, and it's like, well, Rosa does beat her child, so she does deserve it. But also, maybe if her siblings weren't like this, she wouldn't be the kind of person who beat her child in the first place.
Exactly.
Just like I was excited, like, oh man, Eva time, episode 3, let's go. And then she just spends like half of the first bit just like saying mean out of pocket shit to Rosa for no reason. Like, why are you doing this? What's the purpose?
I mean, that's what you're getting with the Ava episode.
It's true. But I'm also like, I don't know. Like, I get it when she fights with Kraus, because Kraus sucks. But, like, I don't know. I don't know why she takes down Rosa. There's a lot of, like... Obviously, I think a big theme of Umineko is, like, the patriarchy and how it sucks.
Right.
Which is definitely, like, foregrounded in episode 3, where it's like, oh yeah, Kinzo and Kraus, like, look down on Eva despite her, like, obviously being capable, just because, like, well, no, you being too good is a problem because women are supposed to be second place. So I guess she lucked out that Hideyoshi actually, like, likes her as a person and also, like, views her as an equal.
Yeah.
But, you know, it is also interesting that, like, a lot of Eva's hostility is also directed towards, like, the women who are quote-unquote subordinate to her, even though they should theoretically be allies, like, you know, the way she treats Natsuhi and Rosa, so.
Right.
Which I guess is also, like, it's interesting comparing, like, Natsuhi versus Rosa as the team leaders in team leaders / team moms in episode 1 and 2. Especially because Rosa's a lot meaner about it, to be honest. Like, like Rosa in a position of authority is like, she's more vindictive and like, finally, my time has come, and then she acts just like an ass about it in a way that is like less true of Natsuhi. Who's still a rich person and mean to her servants, but, you know, grading on a curve.
Yes, grading on the curve of rich people, Natsuhi is like, not that bad.
Yeah, like she says some awful stuff to Shannon in episode 2, but which, you know, also I'm looking forward to hoping the story problematizes George and Shannon's relationship more, maybe. Because episode 2 is a lot more like, isn't it so nice when two people love each other regardless of their power imbalance and also problematic age gap? But we shall see. Also, thing from episode 3, realizing I am less spoiled than I would have thought from cultural osmosis, because like Ronove shows up and I'm like, who the hell are you? I've never seen this guy in my life, and he's on my screen. And I'm like, what do you mean he's a character in this game? How did I not know about him?
You'll see.
How did I not know about the demon butler who likes cookies, voiced by Tomokazu Sugita? We shall see. I like his banter with Battler and how he just talks mad shit about Beatrice behind her back, and also sometimes her face. But it's a nice change in dynamic. Very curious to see where things go, because like I have, on one hand, I obviously have Higurashi as a benchmark. On the other hand, I don't expect things will just follow the pattern. Like, I think it's just gonna go in a different direction, like it always has, obviously, with like there just is more magic while also it's more meta, especially because you have like meta Battler and meta Beatrice talking about the plot outside of the plot as the plot. I don't know how to explain it. It's weird, it's strange, but it's nifty. And like, you know, the red text is like a quote-unquote mechanic / thing that's like also very meta, because like, oh, the text itself of the novel has changed to reflect something about the world. I don't know, it's weird and neat. And I imagine other medium adaptations may struggle with actually making that work as a thing. Because it's both a shitty anime and I think a more substantially well-liked stage show, to my knowledge. So, but yeah, it is just like I have Fate Moon Archive every other week, and often in between those weeks, I have my Umineko book club thing. So I'm basically just like ping ponging between these two games at all times, and it's hard to like find time for other things.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense.
It's just like everything has been perfectly tailored to make things hard to accomplish. But I did like squeeze time to like finish the Kodomi chapter in Tsuino Sora remake, which it turns out I had like half an hour or so less than that left. So I was like, oh, okay, that's nice. Which means I have the Zakuro chapter next, which is like, no, like I've been through this twice already, and I know it's gonna suck, but you know, I gotta get through it.
Right.
Not suck in like the prose way, but in like, or like the quality way, but more in the substance and subject matter.
In the reading experience.
Yeah, just like, oh man, gotta go through the Zakuro torture arc again. Also, I don't care for like, I wish I could rebind the controls on the download I have for Tsuino Sora remake, like, because I'm getting fucked up. Like, the controls aren't in a way where I'm able to like read things faster, partly because it's like, I don't know, for whatever reason, like the spacebar is mapped to like hiding the interface rather than like progressing, and I'm like, what are the controls in this thing? I don't understand.
Right.
But yeah, I guess that's my VN minute.
Yeah.
Shall we enter the red zone?
Yeah, well, let's enter the red zone.
All right.
Feel like a promise. Now time to save the world. 強さだけじゃ強くなれない。うなずくスカスター。無限突破のイマジネーション。未来ステップやばいバイバイバイ。ラビットストーンで飛び込めよ描く。時も痛みを超えて失敗。はびこる罪の震災全近代に響き渡れ愛は無敵 Without doubt 揺るがない
The Red Roundup is what I've decided I'm going to call it. Like, I think I changed it last time from what it was before, but I think just Roundup is just easier to remember.
Yeah, I mean, Red Roundup, it's like alliterative. You know, I like alliteration.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first time I did alliteration, like, I'm a big fan of alliteration, but I think I just picked the word that I just remembered less. But regardless, I think there was 4 episodes this time.
That is correct.
Which I watched all of them this morning at times 2 speed, because I'm like, that is the level of enjoyment I get from the show, to be honest. It is.
Yes, it is. To be honest, I retain very little of Gavan episodes after I finish them, so you might have to do the broad framing stuff.
The first one, we find out how angry Renji or whatever his name is, because that's his emotion, and it's because his former mentor died from the evil Gavan, who I guess used to be called Gavan Destiny, but now he's called Death Gavan, which I guess, there's a pun there in Japanese as well.
Right.
And Death Gavan can also dimension hop, and also is spreading the evil emotion Monster of the Week stuff. And he gets away because, he's the set up as one of the main antagonists, so of course he's not gonna...
Right.
There's a fake out of his partner gets got, but that's okay, he's fine in the hospital. And it's unclear to what degree the 2 bozo cops with their, at this point, kind of just annoying bit of the paper pusher thing is just he's starting to grate on me, okay, this run its course.
I mean, at least they're girls, but you can't just put girls in your show, you have to write them good.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that I think the episodes with the girl Gavan are the better ones, because the dynamic between her and her partner is just more interesting than the other characters.
Yeah.
They just have a good rapport.
I can agree with this.
Whereas I think Setsuna, the Silver Gavan, I'm gonna open up the fucking wiki.
Oh yes, him doing his same fucking bit.
It is the same thing, and this time it's also there was a sniper guy, and he also has that arc now, who's the Monster of the Week or something. I don't know.
Oh god.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So Setsuna is the Gavan Bushido. And then Reiji is Gavan Infinity, and then Kiki is Gavan Luminous, who's the gold one. The Bushido one was again kind of boring. It was there was a guy who was a sniper who made people berserk, and then it turns out he was his old war buddy because there was the big machine war, and then the thing is like, how could you live like a human, become back to being a robot? And then he's like, no, the fact that you're so obsessed with me proves that you also have emotions. And it's like, whatever. I just, he's not very compelling. But the Luminous one is like, they think it's like Gavan's mentor's old mascot's toy came back from like a black hole or something at the center of the galaxy, where it's like, oh, that's where the evil is. But in order to find that out, he goes to like Kiki because she could talk to the Emo Gears or whatever, and then they can't really get down to business because the two girls are having a fight over nothing really important. What's her partner's name? I think Koto. Koto's her name. Yeah.
Yeah, that tracks.
And like they're having like a fight, and then there's like the monster of the week is like a thing that every time you beat it, it splits into two, and so what they have to do is eventually they accidentally summon like the Mugen space or whatever, and then kick all the guys in there. And it's not the best thing ever, but it's like there's more going on because it's about character dynamics, and sort of like, oh yeah, it's sweet. They bicker, but also in a way where like they get over it, and they hug, all that stuff, go have fun. It's fine. And then the last episode was like, I think, setting up a new arc where we get like a new Ninja Gavan from another universe who can also dimension hop for some reason, though what's up with that is remains to be seen. Also, he seems to be like, one, he's like investigating the dimension hopping stuff because like presumably one of the because Gavan Death can dimension hop, there's like an element of like, well, someone's causing problems and they're the ones who are dimension hopping, so he ends up fighting Reiji because he's like, oh, you're also dimension hopper, which means you're the culprit. And so there's a fight there, but also there's like something about him being blackmailed by someone else on the police unit for some reason. He's like Gavan Raya, and his suit's pretty cool. I like it as like it's very different from the other ones.
Right.
It does remind me a bit of like, weirdly enough, it also like it reminds me a bit of like a Ryuki suit, if that makes sense.
I see the vision.
Yeah. It's like a purple gold suit, and like it has like just the helmet looks a bit different. Like it's still like you can tell it's like definitely like twisting the Gavan design sensibilities a bit to be like noticeably different in a way that's like, oh, that's cool. And yeah, basically there's like a fight, and eventually he's like handcuffed after he hijacks like their new upgraded dragon ship, which I believe like the original Gavan had like a dragon ship or something, or dragon mecha. So callbacks. Stuff like that. But otherwise I'm not, it is, well, it's not a deep show. And like most Tokyo shows aren't necessarily the deepest show, but like this is like, I guess it's acceptable, it's passable, but it's also not like the thing I'm like itching to watch,
Yeah, I'm basically I'm in the same boat here.
I'm like, oh man, they really killed Super Sentai to do this instead, huh?
They really did. It's not the best first impression for your new show.
Yeah. Though weirdly enough, they've already like the IP, like the copyright has already been established for the next one already. Which is Kakase Hunter Omega Horn, which sounds unique. But also, I am like, is that too soon? And I think I heard that there were maybe rumors that Gavan Infinity at least would be 25 episodes instead of like 50, like a 2-core show instead of a 4-core show. And so maybe that is the case. In which case, it would like maybe explain some of the pacing decisions, which to me seem baffling and to the show's detriment. And I can't tell if I'm like, maybe if the show was 50 episodes, they would have made a better one. But also because the show is like this, I don't hate that if it's going to be 25 episodes, we're just out of it sooner.
Yeah, I don't get the impression that more episodes would have made a better show here, because I just don't think the episode-to-episode writing is, like, very engaging.
Yeah, I guess like if the characters are just fundamentally not good, then it is what it is. But it would have solved the problem of...
It would have been 10 more episodes of them being like, no, Setsuna, you're not a robot, you're a person.
It reminds me of the image I sent. What was that image I sent you? No, I didn't. Let me find it.
Go for it.
It was it's a Umineko fied version of a Phoenix Wright joke image.
Oh, wait, no, I think I've seen this. I think I know this one.
I just sent it.
Yes.
I have
yes, I've seen this.
You human. It is funny having Canon say this in this image, but also going back and finding the original image, there is something just really funny about the judge saying that to Phoenix. I'm hoping... I don't know how long the show is going to be. There's probably going to be a movie, I guess, alongside the Rider movie this year. But I don't really know, like, is this going to be, I don't know. I'm curious if the plan is that for Project Red to just be 2 core shows. Which...
Right.
We shall see. Like, Ultraman operates on 2 core shows, but also Ultraman spends, like, half the year doing the actual show and the other half of the year doing, like, keeping the slot warm with, like, a recap show where they have a framing device to rebroadcast episodes or something. So it's, like, different. So I guess it remains to be seen. I'm sure the actual Gavan is better than this. But, you know. Should we just go to Code Geass?
Yeah, let's do it.
Alright, insert the musical transition here.
Do you want to do the first episode summary, or am I?
Let me... Give me a second. I'm gonna flip a coin again. Okay, do you want to do heads or tails?
I'll bet on tails.
Okay. So if it lands on tails, you start.
Yes.
Okay, it's me. I get heads. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so these kind of end up being episode by episode summaries just because of, like, I don't know how else to break these down because the way the episode plots are. But also, episode 10 and 11 being a two-parter did end up being one summary instead.
Helpful.
Okay. So for episode 9, it has been 2 weeks since the Black Knights have made their entrance on the world stage, and they have been hard at work gaining the support of the Japanese public by not only fighting the wrong kind of resistance groups, but also corrupt politicians, police brutality, and organized crime. The support has even gained the sponsorship of an organization called Kyoto, who has applied the knights with their own mechs, the Barai. Callan is pleased that the organization is doing well, but she's conflicted and curious about Zero's identity, but also she worries if she digs too deep, he'll run off, and they're like, oh, he's indispensable, so she leaves it alone. Also, all these operations have meant both Lelouch and Callan have been very busy and not at school, and when they are at school, they're too exhausted to do anything but sleep in class. Adding to Callan's problems is her home life, where she has your stereotypical evil stepmother with added racism, and a clumsy maid who Callan reveals to Millie is in fact her birth mother. Callan resents her mother for debasing herself as a servant in her ex-lover's home, complete with all the abuse she gets, and pities her for doing all this for a man who abandoned her. Also, at some point during this, Lelouch gets put in a cat costume and debates police reform in Suzaku. Very important. Meanwhile, Cornelia is hoping to crush the resistance of Japan once and for all, without too much delay, so that Area 11 can be elevated to a fully functioning province of the Empire, and Yuffie is her successor as Viceroy. One additional issue on the list is the spread of a drug called Refrain, which induces nostalgic feelings or memories, and is causing an addiction epidemic among the Japanese laboring population. The drug appears to be spread by the Chinese Federation, thanks Japan, and is causing a decline in productivity, hence why it needs to be dealt with. Elsewhere, Jeremiah and Valletta exchange notes over their encounters with Lelouch's Geass and decide to investigate Ashford Academy. Because Refrain is targeting the Japanese population, Oki informs Callan over the phone that the Black Knights will be doing an operation to deal with it. There's a bit where they're in a park and Callan is stopped by Lelouch when she tries to intervene at a hot dog vendor getting beat up by some Britannians, and then Lelouch sends them on their way to Geass, and then the vendor gets really submissive in gratitude towards them, which irritates her and reminds her of her mom. And then she has a conversation where Lelouch basically does the devil's advocate to Britannian colonialism, and she's like, fuck off, and leaves. Which was, part of the plan, because he's like, well, now he won't know. She won't know I'm now she won't know I'm Zero, etc. That night, the Black Knights break into a warehouse containing Refrain, where they not only find the hot dog vendor, but also Callan's mother, and Callan doesn't take this well. Also, there's a cop robot there who's in cahoots with the drug dealers. See also the crack epidemic in the United States in the 70s.
Yes.
Which Callan, the cop gives Callan trouble because she's trying to basically carry her mother in her mech unit's arms while she's trying to fight. After taking a beating, Callan finally realizes, oh wait, my mom was staying as a maid so she could get close to me, her daughter, and then locks in and wins. And then her mother is taken to hospital and then also sentenced to 20 years in prison, but at least Callan now loves her mom more.
Yes, I think that, Callan seems to believe that, if things with her and Zero go well, Mom won't have to be in prison that long.
Well, that is, another thing, but it does just feel weird, oh, well, her mom did just go to prison now. It's a very strange episode.
Yeah, I thought this episode was, let's talk about it a little bit. Unless we're doing all the summaries at first. No, I feel like we should just talk about the episodes in between the summaries.
At this point, maybe it's better to do this way. Also, we'll get more discussion out of it.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy that they were like, what if we do, an episode about, a state-sponsored drug epidemic?
It's crazy to do this, in one, have it be China, and two, for Japan to do this in their media and have it be China towards Japan.
Yeah, the vibe is not, the vibe of that is not
Yeah. Like, it's a throwaway line,
Good.
but it's also like, you shouldn't have done that.
You shouldn't have put... Yes, because, like, in the... What it feels like in the plot is that it's like the Britannians, decimating the drugs. Or, is decimating... Disseminating?
Disseminating.
Shit,
Yeah.
what is my brain doing? Yeah, that's the word, thank you.
Yeah, which makes sense. And I can also see how, like, different factions of the CIA or each other unknowingly. So, like, there's the side that's, like, trying to deal with the crackdown on drugs, and the side that is doing the drugs, spreading the drugs, and
Yes.
is the narcotics.
Yes, it's just kind of crazy that they put this plotline in a Sunrise mecha anime, I think.
Yeah. I have to presume that at least Code Geass's politics are better than, like, Amiam or whatever that show is. The one that's, like, really racist about immigration.
Right.
But also, there's still, like, fraud elements, obviously.
Yes, totally. I liked Colin's personal story. I didn't think it was, like, uninteresting.
Yeah, her stepmom sucks, obviously. Like, she's
Yes.
stereotypical, haha, you loser who are half-breed, basically what she's saying. Also, her mom being a maid at her mansion is, like, fucked up, but is, like, a good soap opera story. Though also, like,
it's
her fucking, like, bed-wide room with the graffiti on the wall is, like, crazy.
Yes. Also, a thought I had very early in the episode was like, is it Yuri to give your sister fucking like a tiny little colonial holding?
Yeah, like, I said that to tease you last week, but then Cordelia just keeps interacting with Yuffie in ways where I'm like, now hold on a second.
Yes.
Now I'm the fool.
Yeah. Again, is it Yuri to give your sister a colonial holding?
She acts very affectionately for her sister in ways where I'm just like, okay, no, let's hold on a second. It might be.
But, yes, this episode doesn't have, like, too many subplots or whatever. It's just the actual plot is kind of insane.
Yeah.
Brackets, good, I think.
They welcome the cat Arthur into, like, the student council, which means they all have to dress up like cats, which means Lelouch is tied to a chair as they force feline him.
Yes, Lelouch acting like a centrist to, like, get Cullen off of his tail was, I also thought, like, a pretty funny bit.
Yeah, like, she says, like, oh, you're so smart, and yet you don't think and do anything, and he's like, I'm free once again. He does, when he's, like, a mid-cat costume, just say, Cullen doesn't need a costume, because she's already wearing a mask. I'm like, why did you say that? What was the point of that? He just says it in front of everyone. I'm like, what was the point? What did you mean by this? It's hard to know. Like, I don't really know. I'm curious where they're going with this. Because, it does feel like they're, because she is, like, wants to know the truth, but there's a point where she's, like, starting to sublimate, just starting to, like, put those feelings down into just more, like, blind loyalty. We'll talk about it later, but she has a lot more blind loyalty to Zero as the series goes on.
Yeah.
The drug that makes you have flashbacks is crazy, but also I think it's, like, honestly, has been done a lot in science fiction.
Like, and, like, they're, like, gesturing at a real thing, right? Like, they are gesturing at this, CIA distributing crack.
Yeah, like, I was like, one of the saving graces of the episode for me was, like, oh, there was a cop here who can cahoots with the drug dealers. Okay, that's good. I did feel like a bit rolling my eyes when like, one of the maybe it's not unrealistic, but I did see one of the Black Knight guys being like, oh man, why are we doing cop shit now? And it's like, well, actually, it is good for a revolutionary group to, like, get rid of these guys as well. Like, these are also class enemies.
Yeah.
Especially because they usually are in cahoots with the states, like, with the state, like,
Yes.
I haven't like done a lot of like research in the history and like the actual stuff of like the degree to the CIA's involvements with like the drug trade in Latin America, but I know it's a thing. I know it's usually like you know, and I also know that like the Yakuza was like one of the main forces that the US relied on to like crush communists in Japan, for instance. So
Yeah, that totally tracks.
organized crime is like a segment of the bourgeoisie. It's just like a black market bourgeoisie. So they are still enemies, basically. Yeah. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, there's not. I wouldn't really say there's too much else to say about this episode. It's like unlike a lot of other Code Geass episodes, it doesn't really have like subplots or cutaways. It's kind of just the one thing that happens is the one thing that happens, which isn't bad. But it is like once you've talked about that one thing, there's not like much else to talk about with this episode in particular.
Yeah, this is why like even if I was able to like do these episodes as like parts instead of individual episodes, this one was probably gonna have to be standalone anyway, just because like it's just so divorced from everything that happens after it. That's like hard to really do much more than that.
Yes, it's real. It's really like Okuchi was like, all right, I want to do an episode about drugs. I don't want to derail into G-Witch, but like it really is crazy how much bolder, sometimes for better and sometimes for worse, the swings are in this show compared to G-Witch.
I do have to wonder if it's a case of just like, one, it's like Gundam, so like, not that Code Geass wasn't successful, but like it was in the shadow of Gundam and would never be as big as Gundam.
Totally.
Even if like there's a lot of ways, at least so far, and we'll see how I feel at the end of the show, but even now I'm sort of like, there's a lot of like cokey liberalism and politics I don't agree with, but there's a lot of ways that Code Geass, partially just from a writing standpoint, but also even from its politics, is just a lot better and more interesting than like a lot of, if not most, Gundam AUs.
yes, definitely. Like you compare this shit to like Seed or Double O, and it's like night or day.
Yeah, and like I like Double O season 1, but like I'm less hot on Double O season 2. But like even then, like even if you consider like Double O one of the good ones, it's like Seed or Wing, and it doesn't hold a candle to this.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I'm definitely in the weird position where like I'm like, well, I guess I consider myself a Gundam fan, but also when I think about it, I like Tomino stuff and IBO, and well, I guess everything else is fine.
Gundam X is good.
Gundam X is up there in like S tier, but also outside of Tomino stuff, it's basically like Gundam X and IBO and like War in the Pocket, I guess.
Yes, basically. Should we move on to talking about 10 and 11?
Yeah.
Okay, my turn to do the summary. Lelouch has been apparently putting out calls for Black Knight applications, which he's reading by the pool for some reason, as he gloats to C2 about their support among the Japanese for not being colonialism or terrorism, but a secret third thing. Knights of Justice, I guess. One application that catches his eye is one that is submitted by Diethard. Meanwhile, Valletta and Jeremiah go to try to recruit Diethard themselves, and reveal to him their intent to investigate Ashford, as well as the upcoming Britannian operation to crack down on the JLF in Narita. This last bit of info is passed on by Diethard to the Black Knights, who have just increased their ranks and gathered more mechs. In particular, they have acquired the Gurren Mark II, a really cool and special protagonist robot. Zero gives the Gurren to Colin rather than himself, believing her to be the ace pilot who can tap into its full potential. In any case, Zero and the Black Knights roll out into the Narita Mountains, but does not inform anyone other than Colin and Ogi the true nature of their operation. While everything is getting set up, C2 asks him why he kept his first name and taunts him for clinging to his past. He counters that C2 is not a normal human name, which does upset her and leaves her commenting on the whiteness of snow instead. Of course, once the Britannians arrive, many of the Black Knights don't take kindly to the realization that they are now encircled. One of them, Tamaki, who has been here as part of Ogi's crew since the beginning, challenges Zero over this, but he gets them to begrudgingly stand down by pointing out his invaluable tactics now that they're in this position. With that out of the way, the plan is to ally with the JLF to fight and capture Cornelia, and he has Colin and the Gurn trigger a landslide to help even the battlefield. Meanwhile, Cornelia's intention is to capture the JLF leadership in order to uncover who has been backing them in the other resistance groups. She takes the field along with her main subordinates, Andreas and Guilford, while leaving Yuffie behind at the base to handle logistics. While the JLF are initially on the back foot, both sides end up taking heavy losses in this landslide. With the arrival of both the Black Knights and the JLF's own Lieutenant Toto and his 4 Heavenly Swords, who were out of town getting new robots of their own, on the scene, Cornelia's fortunes begin to reverse. Also, Jeremiah rushes to duel Zero and gets owned by Colin instead. Toto intuits Zero's plan and decides to follow his lead, as Cornelia ends up directed into Colin's direction. As the Britannians scramble and try to rescue their princess, Lloyd rings up Yuffie to convince her to send the currently on standby Suzaku into the field, which she agrees to. As Lancelot sorties, Suzaku tells Lloyd he joined the military to prevent people from dying, which is a contradiction that Lloyd finds amusing. As for Cornelia, she jobs real bad to Colin, but gets saved in the last minute by Suzaku. In the ensuing fight, Lancelot does enough damage to the Gurren that Zero calls for a retreat. Cornelia does as well, but sends Suzaku after Zero, who successfully manages to take out his bride custom while the other Black Knights successfully retreat. Staring down Zero, Suzaku curses his violent methods but is unable to apprehend him because C2 shows up to mind break him with visions of his father and allow Lelouch to escape into chaos. Instead, Lelouch tries to drag C2 away and gets brain blasted himself. Suzaku loses control of himself on the Lancelot, causing a rock to be embedded in C2's chest. Lelouch takes her to a cave to recover, and he overhears, but we don't, her mumble in her sleep her true name. When he reveals this to her when she wakes up, she ends up breaking down, explaining that she lost her memories of the past from that time. Lelouch decides to give his sincere thanks for a change, and even says her true name back to her as a thanks at her request. We still don't hear it. As for everyone else, Cornelia is not taking her losses well. Suzaku is still fucked up and had to be pulled out of the Lancelot only after it powered down, and the Black Knights and JLF are celebrating their victory together. Of course, Colin notices that Zero is missing, but is called by him to pick him up. When she sees C2 there, she feels a certain way about it. Zero leaves C2 with the sentiment that he likes the whiteness of the snow. Oh yeah, and Jeremiah, presumed dead, gets picked up by a scientist on Code R, who relocated to Narita after Clovis' death in Episode 3, but are on the move once again.
Yeah. The fact that this two-parter is a lot of the battle rages does help make it a more condensed summary.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, well, what do we have to say about this one? It is kind of mostly a, Battle Rages episode.
Yeah, we get some, I don't know, more of the bond between Suzaku and Yuffie. I think he mouths her name to her as part of the thing to, get her to trust him.
Yeah.
We get the entrance of Diethard as, a main character part of the Black Knights, which will continue. I guess I have my answer for why he's with Toto in the ED. Didn't expect this shift, but, it's a fun one. But more on that later. Toto becomes, a capital G guy with his own squad.
Yes.
And then, Callan's robot is cool.
Callan's robot is cool.
It does strike me as
fun.
One, I think it's a fun wrinkle that Lelouch is well, I'm the commander, but also you are the better pilot, and so you're going to get the better robot.
Yes.
And she's like, are you sure? And he's like, yes. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Two, I did have this thought when I think about it, like, oh, this is extremely a Char coded robot to fight the Gundam coded Lancelot with, which is fun.
Yes, yes. I always enjoy how Code Geass plays with Gundam conventions more than just like directly following them, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Which you like to see. It's like, Gundam as Gundam needs to be more original, so at least the thing that is not Gundam can play around with stuff a bit more.
Right.
I like the Gurren's like Electro Claw, which is like, not said in the summary, is the way that like triggers the line slide. Which will continue to be important. Say this least. It is a fun but also clearly bad leadership thing to just be like, bring your troops to the middle of the battle and be like, a surprise, we're in a battle now, and I'm too invaluable for you to coup me.
We're in a battle.
And everyone's like, unfortunately, he is too valuable to take. In this situation, he is too valuable to get rid of, but maybe we shouldn't trust him. Which is very reasonable. And we continue to have Suzaku be like, I can't believe you're so violent, Zero, while he's a part of the cops.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of battling. It's like, I wouldn't say it's particularly good battling, but I wouldn't say it's particularly bad battling either. It's like an okay set piece.
Yeah, it's mostly like JLF basically lose, but they can't be fully crushed because they threaten Cornelia enough that they're like, well, we have to go save the princess. Which is,
Yes.
maybe a flaw in the whole monarchistic system they have. I did have this thought yesterday that, like, weirdly enough, the ideology / system of Britannia almost, maybe intentionally, maybe by accident, is perhaps the closest analogy I can think of is actually close to fascist Japan. The way that it's like a hyper-militarized, super modernist, but yet still highly, deeply entrenched aristocratic nobility, royal family, monarchy, with like the military dominated by like the royal family and princes and stuff, and also some racism thrown in. I don't know how intentional that was, but it's just the thing I thought about. Like, oh yeah, that's like probably the closest thing I can think of to like real life, honestly. Which is definitely a fun wrinkle on like the setting. Because like even like most of the other monarchies I think at the time were like at least had parliaments, where that was definitely like not untrue of Imperial Japan, but they sure didn't care about the parliament as much. And meanwhile like fascist Italy and Germany were both like republics. But yeah, I guess this one is also... Yeah, I guess this one's like also just like... It's a big set piece, but also it's more like table setting for the stuff that comes after, and like more of the meat's going to be in the coming episodes. So.
Right, yeah. I enjoyed the stuff of like Lelouch and C2 getting closer, but that's kind of more... they're more just building that up at this part. And, also stuff with like Suzaku's backstory, but we can talk about that more in future episodes.
Yeah, I felt like that I needed to mention the Snow stuff, but also like I don't know what this means. It's just like book endings,
right?
But like it's it's something. And yeah, there's like mostly just set up for the stuff that happens later on all fronts. It was funny. Like Jeremiah's like, no, I have to beat the Zero. I'm gonna do the Jared thing and get owned, and like his robot gets exploded and he refuses to eject. But we will see him, I guess, in the future. because he lived. But I guess I can get to episode 12 then.
Yeah. Go for it.
Okay. After the battle in Narita, most of the JLF was wiped out. Even so, Cornelia can hardly claim victory and also wants to clamp down on the NAC, which is apparently a Japanese self-government organization that may be helping to arm the resistance. While this meeting is happening, some of the guys who are clearly arming the resistance are meeting in like a shady room to discuss the status of the JLF themselves, and also the fact that Toto is missing. Among them is a young priestess who happens to be a fan of Zero because of his rescue of Suzaku, and is also responsible for delivering the Gurren to the Black Knights, specifically. Back at school, Shirley laments that Lelouch and Callan are always absent, and then Millie says something ominous about how the status quo is never permanent. What does she mean by this? Right on cue, Lelouch comes in and takes some paperwork to do, but accidentally grabs an envelope from Shirley's dad that's at the top of the pile as well. Shirley goes, "Oh no," and chases after him, but decides to take advantage of the fact that in the envelope are some tickets to some orchestra performance, so she invites him on a definitely not date, to which he agrees. Afterwards, Shirley runs off and tries to psych herself up, but then gets an important message on her phone. All this is witnessed by both a potentially jealous C2 and also some guy who looks like Cyclops from the X-Men. Later at the Black Knights base, while Lelouch's Zero thinks about Shirley's invitation, Oki informs him that the Black Knights have been summoned by Kyoto after they're impressed by the Gurren's performance in Narita. Zero finds out in this conversation as well that Black Knights could really use Kyoto's funding since Tamaki has been mishandling their finances, and so he promptly reassigns the position of treasurer to Oki. Tamaki gets mad at this and challenges Zero's authority once again and demands he reveal his face as a sign of trust, but then Callan diffuses the situation. Even so, many of the knights meet with Ogi later behind Callan's back to discuss whether they can really trust Zero, especially after, what he did to Narita, and also all the stuff with his face, etc., etc. Callan, for her part, continues to struggle with not knowing Zero's identity and feels envious that C2 does know, but she knows it. Like, once again, kicks the bucket down the road. Also, for some reason, in the middle of this, Nunnally walks down Nita fucking a table to pictures of Yuffie in a magazine. It's just in between those two conversations at the Black Knight's base, they just insert this, which, to be clear, is a scene. One of the scenes that is too infamous for me to not to have known about.
Yes, I'm telling you, Okichi did not have this dog in him when he was writing G-Witch.
Yeah, it's just like I knew about the table scene. I didn't know it would be inserted in here.
Yeah, it's kind of just like a random scene. It's not like built up to or whatever. It kind of just happens.
It's like, if you had any doubts before that Nina is gay for Yuffie, well. But the cherry on top is Nunnally coming. He's like, "Hey, are you sick?" And he's like, "No, I'm fine."
You mean the chair on top?
Yeah. Anyway, on that note, Lelouch comes home to a bedridden Nunnally who has developed a fever. She teases him that he got sick on purpose for his attention because of how distant he's been lately. Lelouch, in response, takes her hand and promises he'll always be by her side. And I'm still the same guy. Don't worry about it. The next day, the Knights are to head to Kyoto, and Lelouch asks C2 for help. When C2 reminds him of his date, he admits he was thinking of cancelling, but then he gets a call from Shirley, who says that she'll be late anyway. The reason? She and her mother are in Narita, where they confirm the body of her father as one of the victims of the landslide. Uh-oh. Meanwhile, the Knights are brought into Kyoto's secret base, which is located within Mount Fuji, which incidentally has been turned into a saccharite mine by the Britannians. The leader of Kyoto arrives, face obscured, and orders Ogi to remove Zero's mask. However, underneath is C2, who reveals the name of Kyoto's leader is in fact Taizo Kirihara. Kirihara's guards take aim to protect his identity, but then are dispatched by the real Zero. Zero explains that Kirihara was a former ally of Prime Minister Kirigiri, who became a Britannian collaborator after the war, but secretly arms the resistance from behind the scenes. Zero also reveals to his comrades for the first time that he is not Japanese, which they take to be, oh, that's why you're wearing a mask and not other reasons. with his back turned to them, Zero shows his face to Kirihara alone. Kirihara immediately recognizes him as Lelouch, who he helped care for alongside Nunnally and Suzaku before the war. Confident Zero is a bona fide enemy of Britannia, he informs Black Knight that he is a leader they can trust and promises they have the backing of Kyoto. How convenient that like the leader of Kyoto is a guy he personally knew and liked.
Yeah.
That evening, Lelouch makes it to the orchestra hall late, but spots Shirley waiting outside as it starts to rain. She breaks down in tears over the death of her father and questions why someone innocent like him would be killed by Zero. Lelouch can only stand stunned at the realization of the consequences of his own actions, and then Shirley goes in to kiss him. So yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, are you still here?
Yeah.
Okay, I think you cut out for like maybe 10-15 seconds for me, but I assume you were just finishing the summary up, so it's fine.
Yeah. I just finished, so.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so what do you have to say about this episode?
This is definitely one of the bigger ones. And like the fallout of we can talk more about the fallout of the actions next time, in the next episode, because that's where like Lelouch has to confront these consequences. But for now, one, we get, well, for starters, I guess we get like an ally Lelouch can trust with his face, which is interesting. But it's also specifically like, oh, it's a guy he knew before. And also that guy's also conveniently also lead with resistance, which maybe a bit too neat and tidy, but also, got to move the plot forward.
Yeah, for sure.
You get more of the Sakuradite as like a MacGuffin plot element, where it's like, oh yeah, they desecrated Mount Fuji to turn into a mine, which obviously, because we're dealing with Japanese nationalism, can be reloaded, but also would still be fucked up to do this in real life, and colonizers would do this. See also how sacred Lakota site, the Black Hills, was defaced by the U.S. To be Mount Rushmore, i.e. the face of the genociders of indigenous people, and also the carver of it was literally a Klansman. So to say nothing of like all the like Israeli bombings of Palestinian holy sites, and also just like Roman ruins in Lebanon and Palestine, etc., etc. So tapping into something real as usual. So giving credit where it's due.
Yes. This is something I enjoy about Code Geass, is that it is often a very silly show and sometimes a very liberal show, but it does feel like they want to tap into real things for for the like political conflicts and like broader plots.
Yeah, like it does more to like accurately portray the reality of colonialism in a way that I'm just impressed by, and like the bar is on the floor in some ways, and like the show doesn't still necessarily have good politics, but like in its portrayal of these things, I'm still impressed. Like, oh, it has like at least enough knowledge and nuance to actually depict things as they would actually be to some extent.
Yes, I would not say that Code Geass has good politics, but I might say that Code Geass has good politics by the standards of like a 21st century Sunrise Mech anime, which is not a high bar, but
like we said, it's better than most Gundam AUs, so especially the contemporary ones.
Especially the contemporary ones. Like, Okuchi is like no Tomino or Takahashi or Oshi or whatever, but like, he's tapping in something real.
Yeah, and like, I do think like, the portrayal of imperialism in Gundam Season 1 is maybe a cut above Code Geass, at least where we are so far, but also like, that gets dragged down a bit by what Season 2 does, and we'll have to see if Code Geass keeps us up all the way through, but like, at least for now, just based on what I've seen.
Yeah.
I've been like, hey, doing a better job than other things, so props do.
For sure.
I think Kirihara himself, one, very liberal to be like, oh, woe is me, the poor CEO, who's actually heroic. But
Yeah.
there's also like interesting there, and like one in like colonized context, you have like obviously the contention of like which way the national bourgeoisie will go, because some of them will be compradors with imperialism and some of them will be siding with the liberations, just like not even if they're not like socialists, they're like, well, I want national liberation at least. So and it, you know, the class groups are not necessarily a monolith, obviously, so you have the different factions, and you know, some factions are going to be pro collaboration, some of them won't be. And
Right.
also, I think it's interesting that Kirihara is a character who is shown as like, oh, he's to the other people of Kyoto and like to the people sponsored by Kyoto. He's covering his face, so no one knows who he is, and so they can't leak who he is to, you know, protect himself. But publicly, he is known as a traitor. He's like known as a collaborator. And obviously, like,
Right.
you know, he's want to protect himself. He wants to like protect himself and keep the money flowing to the resistance. So he doesn't let people in the resistance know who he is, so Britannia can't find out about it. But like also like there's something interesting about like, oh, the person who is privately in truth with the resistance, but keeps like the fact is resistance even to his fellow comrades. He wears a mask, and so to speak,
Yeah.
in his resistance form, but in public unmasked is a villain. And I'm like, oh, I wonder if this is setting up something for another character that may be replicated in their story arc.
Interesting.
not to like
You'll see.
not to like tip my hand too much, but I'm like, this is interesting. Could be, we could see the echoes of this in the future. I wonder. Yeah, I think that's like the main thing I had for this episode. Like, we're getting a lot of like,
yeah. It's kind of like, I feel like a lot, once you get past the drug one, a lot of the first half of the episodes we watch, like, of the set, the first half is kind of a lot of like setting up dominoes to fall for the back half.
Yeah, because we have the battle, one sets up the Toto domino for later, but also we have the landslide, which ends up being, you know,
yes,
we'll
ends up feeding into the Shirley plot.
Yeah, which we'll talk about later. I do not have good opinions on whether that the landslide is good tactics, but I feel like probably not. In like actuality, it's probably not actually good revolutionary tactics, but also I think it reflects to some degree like the way Lelouch is alienated from the people in the movement, and he does generally kind of like, he's like not necessarily as bought in, he's not necessarily as like he's talking to like C2 by the poolside and very chastely while she's swimming, which is a crazy scene. He does sort of like speak almost like talk down to the Japanese, almost like I don't think he doesn't seem as interested in like the liberation so much as like using resistance as a vehicle for his own personal revenge plot. I think well, like,
yes, it's kind of like Lelouch's the impression you have of Lelouch at this point in the story is like he is not against the Japanese people, but he does not particularly care about them as much as he hates the, like, Britannian sort of, like, Darwinist eugenicist value system.
Like, he hates the Empire and its politics and, like, the royal family specifically, but, like, his struggle is in some way, like, using Japan as a convenience, because that's where he lives. Like, he's using the Japanese resistance as, like, a tool and, like, a pawn, which is a thing that in, like, the aftermath of the Narita battle, he's like, well, I'd like to think that Zero doesn't think of us as just pawns. I'll trust him for now, but it is a concern of mine. Especially after, like, seeing how things go. Which I guess in some ways maybe is like Lelouch as settler communist, who's like, I am against the US, but the US government, but I am not pro giving indigenous people their land back, for instance.
Right. Well, yes. Though I think it's less that Lelouch is against giving the Japanese their land back as much as he doesn't really care either way.
Yeah.
Is kind of more the impression you get.
Yeah. He's definitely like means to an end. But I think, on that point, we probably have more to say once we get into more of the Shirley stuff. So if you want to read the next bit.
Yeah. 13, right?
Yep.
Okay. Shirley attempts to put up a front of feeling okay at her dad's funeral, while Colin and Lelouch are feeling mad guilty. Shirley also apologizes to Lelouch for forcing a kiss on him at the heat of the moment earlier. Lelouch continues to sulk in his own guilt throughout the day, while C2 taunts him for only now getting conflicted feelings, while many others have already died through his actions. Later, Diethard leaks info to the Black Knights, this time in person, regarding Cornelia's forthcoming operation to capture General Katase and the remaining members of the JLF as they try and escape the country with Sakuradite reserves. While Zero wants to confront and capture Cornelia directly, Ogi disagrees and argues their priority should be the JLF's escape. Regardless, the Knights agree to aid the escape at Kyoto's request. Meanwhile, Cornelia has ordered Suzaku to participate in the operation despite her racism. He is debriefed by the less racist Andreas, who recognizes Suzaku's skill, but also informs him his role in the operation is as a sniper and that he must shoot to kill, much to Suzaku's horror. Finally, Shirley is approached by Violetta, who she previously met at Narita, about the possibility that Lelouch may be working for Zero. Shirley is shocked by this and trails Lelouch that night to the harbor, with Violetta trailing her in turn. As the Knights lay in standby, Colin approaches Zero and questions if they are doing the right thing. Zero tells her and himself that they will inevitably be sacrifices as they fight towards their goal, and Colin reconfirms her commitment to the cause. Soon after, the JLF attempts to leave port and the operation begins. As the battle rages, Suzaku is horrified at the Britannians ignoring calls for surrender, but Cecil tells him that orders are orders. Cecile. Zero, meanwhile, orders the Knights to hold back before remotely detonating a bomb he placed earlier on the JLF's vessel, once it has been boarded by Britannians. He informs the Knights that the JLF's goal was to take the enemy out with them, and now they can focus their attention on Cornelia. Diethard alone sees through Zero and realizes that he used the JLF as a decoy. Excited at the prospect of Zero as an agent of chaos and great man of history, he starts running around the harbor giddy with laughter. Cornelia is cornered by Colin and Zero, but is once again saved by Suzaku, who drop-kicks Zero's burai before dueling Colin. Zero's robot is seriously fucked up by the impact, and he himself falls out of the cockpit right next to Shirley. Shirley grabs his gun with the intent to take revenge, only to hesitate when his helmet falls off.
Yeah. This is, I guess, technically a two-parter as well, but I think it just made more sense to, like, split these ones up, especially because there's a time jump that obscures things in...
Yeah, and these are also a bit meatier than the last two-parter, like, individually.
Yeah, so, let's check my notes again. Yeah, first of all, I think in the way that we are starting to see Lelouch's worldview and approach problematized, we also get Suzaku's worldview and approach problematized, where he's like, no, you're a cop in the army, and you have to do army and cop shit, which means killing quote-unquote terrorists. And Suzaku's like... And, like, I guess he ends up not doing it because he just, like, doesn't, but, like, still, he is in front of a situation where he's like, well, orders are orders, you have to do this. So I am curious to see how that goes, especially, well, we'll talk more about other reveals about Suzaku later, but it's interesting to see. I guess, yeah, we get Lelouch sort of, like, having a sad showers as he realizes the consequences of his actions, though it is, I think, a nice wrinkle as C2 points out, like, listen, one, you did murder your brother, and two, just through, like, Well, he uses Geass to, like, obviously, we've seen cases of him using his Geass to kill other people, and also just, like, through being a commander in a war, other people have died through his actions, and it's only, like, now he's like, oh, no, it personally affected someone close to me, I don't know, and she's like, well, what do you expect, like, some people are just gonna get caught in this, and he does have to, like, tell himself this, and, like, I do wonder, like, what the show's maybe intent was, because I definitely read I cross-referenced like the summary on the wiki, and it says like Callan realizes that killing innocents is wrong, and I'm like, well, listen, you are doing it.
I think that is like Wikipedia.
Yes, that was my point. That is like that is fan wiki editorializing, whereas I think the show is.
I don't think that's what the show is doing.
Yeah, I think the show is. My impression was the show was being more complicated, and I just wanted to roast the wiki for a bit. But
yes.
But it is like in a. I think there's like the. Let me just double check so I make sure it's right. Yeah, it's a quote by I.M.A. Césaire, and I think like discourse on colonialism. No one colonizes innocently, and I guess like no one colonizes with impunity either. Or something continuation, but yeah, like sort of like technically like to some extent, like obviously we feel bad for Shirley, and Lelouch would feel bad for her, but also to a degree to which like, well, her dad is technically a settler, like. If this was like set in real life and it was like, oh yeah, Shirley is an Israeli, and meanwhile Lelouch is fucking Prince Harry doing fucking Lawrence of Arabia into founding Hamas or whatever, like we wouldn't necessarily feel bad about we wouldn't feel bad about like Shirley's dad maybe. So it does like, and it's not that like we can not be like, well, it is a shame when people who are unarmed end up getting caught in this, but also when you are like involved in the stealing of land, dispossession, or like occupying the land, it's kind of like even it's disagree to which you are complicit in the structural violence, and so you can't like be too picky about like innocence. Like there was obviously like similar things happened with like Algeria's independence against France. I don't know the specifics there, but obviously there was like some of the guerrilla attacks and bombings obviously caught people who weren't necessarily strictly militants, but still it's obviously complicated more in a sentinel colonial situation, but it's just a thing worth acknowledging.
Right.
And I don't know if the show goes like that far in acknowledging it, but at least is willing to like engage with like, you are doing a war and there will be collateral, unfortunately, but like, does that mean to overthrow the empire you should just like not fight against the empire? And like,
right, yeah, that's kind of the logic there. The show is framing it more as like, well, it's unfortunate that these things happen, but, ultimately more people will die if they don't fight the Empire, so...
Putting a pin in that before we talk about Suzaku later. But, I do...
I think it makes for I do think it makes for some very solid melodrama though. I think the show is pretty good at linking the school stuff and the war stuff, so it doesn't just feel like you're watching two different shows.
Like I did talk about this last time. I was like, I hope that like the bleeding over the school life and the war stuff does happen. And it does in a way that I feel is satisfying from a character's perspective. I think it's a good character drama. The show's good on entertaining on that front. Obviously I like that it actually doubles down. It actually doubles down and does the school stuff in a way that was not true Gundam Wing. I like the surprise Toku / Magic Girlfriend enjoys the show with the double life aspect and how Callan and Lelouch have to have double lives, secret identities, etc. etc.
Yes.
So I like all that stuff. Obviously it's spicy when it's just like, your would-be girlfriend is specifically the person who is the most fucked up by your quote-unquote war crimes. That's all good. I do like sort of the conversation where like Lelouch, who he's as Zero, but also he's like hiding behind some boxes with his shirt off and not actually wearing the mask. Is just like he's telling Callan, okay, there will be sacrifices, there will be collateral. But the cause is still just. But he's also, it does feel like, as I said in the summary, it does feel like he's also telling himself this, as he's like trying to convince himself that he has to keep going.
Right. Yeah, I think it's very fun that Lelouch is I think it's good character writing that Lelouch is like theoretically very into the idea of like fighting the fight and stuff, but when he actually faces consequences, it takes him a second.
Yeah, and like I also think like in a way, because as I mentioned, the cultural osmosis I've gotten of Lelouch has not shown me the side of him, so it's like really refreshing and nice to just be like, oh yeah, he's like a well-realized character who is like, he may end up in the fucking cold-hearted Light Yagami road by the end of the show, but like he's not there from the beginning. It takes a while for him to actually like lock in and get there, or however he ends up, so we shall see. But like it is nice, he is like, he does care about his friends a lot and feels guilt for like when he does things, and so like that is, he's a human character with feelings, which is nice.
Yes, we talked about this a little bit last time. I don't think he's that similar to Light at all, really. I think this is just like 15-year-olds being like, oh my god, they're both smart.
They're both guys who like think with their brains.
Yes.
And he obviously has his own motivation being like, I love my sister and I hate the eugenic system that hates my sister.
Yes, which is a pretty sympathetic motivation, all things considered.
Yeah. I do enjoy Andreas being like, listen, I know the princess, my boss, is really racist, but I'm just, I like getting things done. You're good at getting things done. It's all good. Don't worry about it. But you do have to shoot people.
Yeah.
I only realized this when, even though I wrote the summary, I only had this realization after you're like reading it out in the summary. There's like looping back to like Lelouch as like disconnected from the people and like not necessarily like the liberation of Japan is secondary to him. I just noticing the priorities between Ogi versus Lelouch, where Lelouch is like, I am good. We need to target Cornelia because he specifically wants revenge against Cornelia and to interrogate her, and like that's his goal. And Ogi, who is Japanese and is like has been part of the resistance in the beginning, he's like of the people. He's like, well, I think it makes more tactical sense to help the JLF escape, so we have like more comrades, and like the actual Cornelia stuff is secondary. And I think it's like interesting to see that dynamic. I don't know how much Okochi like was thinking of this stuff out overtly, but also it's like kind of like it's easy resonance to make. And I think it's neat to like see this stuff show up in the show. I just think it's interesting. Like Oki's priorities as like an actual Japanese person in the resistance are just like different from Lelouch's, and I think it's interesting to see that reflected.
No, I totally get you.
Let's see what else is there. I do think it's fun that Lelouch just like eventually just like plants a bomb secretly and then blows them up. It's like, oh, they did kamikaze. Well, I guess we can just fight Cordelia now. And I also we do have to talk about D-Tart now. I think this is the D-Tart moment. He's one. I don't know how. I realized maybe it's just because like he wasn't present as much in the last batch, but it took me until this batch to realize one, he's voiced by fucking.
He's voiced by Joji Nakata.
Hearing those wonderful Joji Nakata tones coming out of his mouth, I'm like, oh yes, bless. But also, he's here now. He's officially joined. As the thing, just like, not just informed, but he's like, oh hey, I'm here to join up, and I enjoy that one. He's like the only one who like realizes what Lelouch has done, whereas Ogi is kind of like he's like kind of has his suspicions, but like Diethard sees through immediately. It's like, oh, I know what kind of guys Lelouch is like. Well, he doesn't know it's Lelouch, but he knows exactly what kind of guy Zero's like. And he immediately is like, this is the coolest shit ever. I'm gonna go slide down this ladder so I can just run laps around the harbor, laughing like a maniac, because he's just so excited at the idea of just like Zero stirring the pot.
He's like, hot damn! I'm meeting like Napoleon too.
Yeah, he's like meeting Napoleon, and also he's like meeting Napoleon and also like the Joker. And there's a degree to which Diethard almost feels a bit Joker coded, just the way he's like, I just want to see shit happen, and this is a guy who's making shit happen. Which does also lead to him, like, he specifically slides down the ladder and starts running around. And then Ogi thinks he's, like, being turncoat and starts shooting at him, and he dodges all the bullets, which just also adds to it. It's just, like, I'm so curious. Well, it comes again later. I guess it's, like, not as important, but, like, you know, well, actually, we'll leave it for later, but, like, it's hard to really know what Diethard's actual ideology or motivations is. He might actually not have an ideology, but he might just be here to, like, oh, this is where history's happening, so I'll watch it even regardless of what his actual, like, beliefs are. He's an interesting man that I enjoy. I was expecting him to be this way when he showed up as, like, a random press guy who, I was like, it's weird that they're giving this press guy this much screen time in, like, the first 3 episodes of the show. Because he, like, introduced, like, doing a thing with Clovis, and then he, like, does Clovis's funeral and gets hired by Jeremiah, and now he's, like, brought into the fold as, like, a member of the team in a way that, like, I enjoy and didn't expect. So very fun to have him around. Very curious to see where he goes. And then I think other than that, mostly just get, like, the cliffhanger with Shirley finding out Lelouch's identity, which we get paid off for in the next episode, I think. So I don't know if you had anything else in this episode particularly, other than just like, well, you know.
No, not particularly.
Yeah, another thing, just like true in all these episodes, I kind of like only realized it as we were talking about during the recording we're having right now, but this show uses a lot of cell phones for communication, and it only just occurred to me, oh yeah, this is a mid-aughts show when the cell phone is novel. So
yeah.
Just the fact that it's, like, everywhere is, like, interesting. Like, in a way, I think because we're, like, in the current year, we take it for granted, but also, like, the fact that, like, the cell phone was, like, novel and new at the time, and it being so prevalent in the show, like, Lelouch is always calling on her cell phone for, like, orders and stuff like that, and just, like, they're having a lot of, like, meetings and stuff, like, oh yeah, we're doing this organization, they're conveying information through this cell phone a lot, and, like, planning organizations a lot covertly through cell phones. I think that's interesting.
Yes, but the impression I've always gotten is that Japan adopted cell phones a little earlier than the rest of the world did.
Yeah, but I also got the impression, like, they also just kept the flip phone for a lot longer too.
Yeah.
Like, there's also a reason that, like, a lot of Toku transformation devices of the 2000s are also phones. Fi's being, like, the most prominent example of this, but also it's true of, like, many Sentai transformations. It's just that, like, in Fi's cases, there's, like, thematic stuff, and it's kind of, like, the whole point, whereas with, like, the Sentai stuff, it's just more like, well, is it cute how it's a phone? Without, like, really much.
Well, phones are cool.
Yeah. If anything, the advent of the smartphone has made it harder to make cool cell phone transformation devices. Is it me who does 14? I guess we can read 14 now, right?
Yeah, wait. Okay, wait. You did 9. I did 10 and 11.
Okay, yes, I did 14.
You did 12. Yeah.
Okay. Alright, episode 14. At some point during the battle, C2 contacts Ogi to confirm their order to retreat, as well as the fact that she secured Zero's safety. C2 questions why Lelouch is now too shaken to even give orders on his own, and he responds, A, he thinks he saw Shirley at some point during the battle, and B, 2 people were there when he had his helmet fallen off, and one of them took his gun and shot the other one. Back on campus, Shirley, who does indeed still have his gun, tries and fails in tears to write her in his diary and ends up tearing up the page and throwing it away. Sometime later, Nunnally and Nina ask Suzaku if they can help introduce them to Yuffie. During this conversation, Lelouch calls Suzaku and asks him if anything has been great at school. Suzaku responds with something very gay, and I'll talk about that later, and then confirms Shirley has been absent a lot lately. Lelouch is relieved Suzaku is still in the dark, but now his suspicions of Shirley have only been strengthened, so he and C2 go and raid her bedroom. There they find her diary and a stash of photos of Lelouch, as well as confirmation that you went to Narita. Meanwhile, Shirley's confronted by Cyclops, who C2 later reveals to be named Mao. At the memorial site in Narita, Mao taunts her that while Zero, or rather Lelouch, is a murderer, Shirley is no different, as she shot Valletta to save Lelouch back at the harbor that night. Therefore, he asserts they both must atone for their sins. Some other things are happening, which is a thing I started doing in these later summaries where, like, subplots got advanced by a singular scene, and I had to be like, well, I gotta mention this.
Right.
First, Guilford and Andreas realize that Zero still is targeting Cornelius specifically, and they wonder if he has a specific vendetta against the royal family. Based on this, Guilford suggests to Yuffie that she should have her own royal guard. Second, in opposition to Callan's blind loyalty, Ogi and Diethard raise their suspicions to the other Black Knights regarding the timing of the explosion of the JLF vessel. And later, while Ogi is outside having a think, he finds a half-conscious Valletta who mumbles something about Zero before passing out from blood loss. On the train to Narita, C2, who is in a very nice outfit, questions Lelouch about his feelings for Shirley to his irritation. When he tries to dismiss her, she warns them that their path makes it dangerous to keep people they care about close. Regardless, the two of them split up once they reach the city and search for Shirley. Lelouch gets a call from Mao using Shirley's phone, which he uses to draw Lelouch into a chess match in a cable car. Despite claiming to have never played the game, Mao is able to win thanks to his Geass, which he reveals to Lelouch, again, less than mind read. C2 spots all this from a distance, and upon recognizing Mao, borrows a motorcycle to chase after them. At the top of the lift, Shirley confronts Lelouch at gunpoint about his identity as Zero, and that the two of them should die together to atone for their crimes, or else Mao will kill them both instead. Despite Lelouch's attempt to talk her down, she shoots but misses. Still, Lelouch falls back, sending the photos from her room flying. At this, Shirley breaks down and sends Mao away before collapsing. Mao attempts to retrieve a rifle from the cable car, but is instead shut inside as C2 activates it once more. Mao's obsessive feelings for her kick in as he calls out to her and says he'll come back to her chagrin. As has happened, Lelouch embraces and comforts Shirley, reassuring her that she's not at fault for her sins and he'll carry her sins for her. Despite her protests, he then uses a Geass on her, which the next scene we reveal. That night, he meets her at the memorial again, and Shirley now has amnesia, where she asks him if he lost someone in the landslide. He just says something like, I lost a dear friend, but maybe someone I loved. I don't know how I feel. And she encourages him that, sounds rough, but one day the sun will rise again. Lelouch then solemnly departs and gives her thanks for everything, and she's confused. That's the end, the quote-unquote end of that plot line.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna have Mao stick around for a few episodes, but off the bat, fun to have another Geass user as a rival for a bit, but I also don't know how much I care about Mao himself.
No, I think we know about this a little bit in the next episode with one after. I think they are cooking a little bit. Okay. They have I think Mao has ingredients. Yeah. But I don't know if those ingredients come together into a coherent meal or food item.
Yeah.
And the ingredients would make an
item.
Yes.
I think he's as most interesting in this episode where we don't know what his motivations are. And once you find out his motivations, he's a lot less interesting and appealing. And also, it's more confusing why he's even doing this. But.
Right. Yes. Yes, I think the idea of somebody who could read minds developing a kind of morality complex is pretty fun.
I also enjoy he just being I never played this game before, and then he beats him at chess. It's just really funny.
No, it's really good. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of the Lelouch and Shirley stuff this
Yeah, it's
episode.
good.
It's good drama.
Like, it's fun. Like, oh no, his secret's revealed, and that's all good. And I like that she's conflicted, because I think, like, she loves Lelouch. She hates that Zero killed her father. Unclear if she also, like, because I think there's some degree where she felt like she sympathized with Zero and the Black Knights originally, and then was more complicated by that when her father died, and then double complicated by, oh, it's my crush Lelouch. And the fact that, like,
Right.
I think it, not sure to what degree, but, like, we see that, like, Valletta is like, all right, I found Zero, I'm gonna get so much honor and a reward for this, haha, and you'll get some honor too. And I think, like, Shirley just recoils against that entire thing, even if she's, like, has resentment towards Lelouch as Zero for killing her dad, and she wants to protect Lelouch there, which I think is good. And, like, just the fact that, like, she's in a vulnerable state, and so this creepy guy dressed like Cyclops from the X-Men showing up and just can read her mind and stuff, just, like, basically trauma manipulating her into, like, doing this weird scheme is fun and heightened stakes. Yeah, I mean, it's good character drama. It's nice to see Lelouch, like, have to end up, like, he does face the consequences of his actions, and he's like, man, this sucks, and he's just very sad by the end of the episode.
Right.
It is definitely, like, a strong end of episode twist. Like, you know, I'm part of the reason why I like sort of like Code Geass gained like a legendary status in my mind is because it was the everything happened so much show, and like people talk about like, man, this show is crazy to watch week to week, and I can definitely see why that is the case.
Yeah. I think you definitely get a sense for why that's the case as you're watching it, because like it really feels like a show where, you know, many things can happen.
Yeah. I have to imagine that's part of why its reputation. It's still why its reputation blew up in the West beyond just being like a mainstream Sunrise show. But like, I have to imagine that's a big part of the reason why it got the traction it did. It's just like, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, it definitely feels like a two minds. I think it's easy. Like, oh, he erased her memory. That's easy. But then we find out in later episodes, no, it's actually not that easy. So, which is, you know, one, he feels talking about it, which is nice. But two, it's not that easy actually. Maybe we should leave that for later. But like, is just like a strong, as a character beat, is like a strong point to end off where like he erases memories to like, one, untraumatize her, and two, like keep her safe and at a distance. And that you feel sad about this. And like he, even at the end, he's like, I don't know if I liked her platonically or romantically, but also because of all this, I can't know and get closure on this because I have to like keep you at arm's length and also not knowing who I am, just to like keep you safe and also not fucked up over all the shit that's happened. I think that's good and spicy. Like, you know, the good bittersweet stuff, like the bittersweet yearning that comes with and, you know, separation and stuff. You know, and just like, the way he like frames it is like, oh, I lost a friend, and he goes off about it. You know, the good, you know, melodrama.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
I like how she doesn't for a moment. I guess her mind is on other things, but just the fact that she like sees the scattered photos from her room collection and doesn't ask about it. It's like, hey, why do you have that? Let's see what else was the things that because definitely there is like as beefy as these summaries are, there's obviously also like minor details I didn't like put there. Oh yeah, the thing where Lelouch calls the school and asks Suzaku, "Hey, is there anything weird?" Because he wants to ask about like Shirley and stuff like that. And then Suzaku's like, "Yeah, you aren't here." And I'm like, "This is the fucking gayest shit I've ever heard. That's crazy." And I like Suzaku getting pouty about like, "Oh, we were supposed to be classmates, but you never at school."
Yes, that's the good BL.
Yeah. Let's see. I do wonder like what Deedhart's intentions are when he like raises the question. Okay, hey, do you? So you're suspicious too, huh? I guess maybe we'll see how that goes later. But for now, I'm still like not entirely sure about that. But I definitely do like that Oki's place in all this is complicated because he is like basically the second in command and like was the former leader. But
Right.
but also like he's he's like a more organic leader. I think like this is not a thing that I mentioned in the summary before, but like one of the reasons the the other Black Knights meeting behind Callan's back to talk to him, where he's like, "Well, listen, you used to be the one who led us, and before it was like Naoto, who was like Naoto was Callan's brother before he died, and so like we don't have a problem with you, we don't have a problem with Callan, but maybe Zero's a problem, even though he's like allowing us to reach new heights, but he's also like comes with so much more risks, and so I think that's it'll be also interesting to see how Ogi's doing." Yeah. Ogi, another character I didn't necessarily know existed when the show started, but it is impressing me more as the show goes on. Like, oh, there's a meat there.
Yeah, he's like, he's like a fun secondary character, I think.
Like, he's not like Tamaki, who was there from the get-go, but is like, I didn't know Tamaki's name, and his name wasn't worth bringing up in most of the summaries because he didn't really give note. It's like, well, technically Tamaki was like there in episode like 1 or 2, but like I had no reason to bring it up. There's like a girl who I think is called Itoe who was like there, but like, and she has lines, but she, she's mostly there to be like, hey, someone has a message, This show has a lot of characters, and I can't give attention to all of them because not all of them have things.
Matter.
I think another character beat I didn't mention in the summary is just like, Lloyd is still on his shit like, oh man, wanting to get more data and stuff on Suzaku, and Cecilia has like, well, you should treat him better, you should treat Suzaku as a human, rather than just like a part of the machine. And we get hints at like Cecily's crush on Suzaku, but it's not, minor stuff. There's more Lloyd stuff in the couple episodes too. But like again, he's like still kind of in the background, hasn't revealed his full power level yet. But yeah, there's like dominoes will continue to fall because we still have to deal with Bound for a couple episodes. So I guess you can move on to episode 15.
Yeah. Alright, is it my turn? Okay. The revelation of another Geass user causes friction between Lelouch and C2 as Lelouch questions her about him and their history. She confirms that Mao can read minds within a 500-meter radius, but that he can't turn his power off, hence his prolific headphone usage. She also explains that the power of a Geass increases with use, which can mentally break the user if they cannot handle it. All this leads Lelouch to chastise her for imposing cursed contracts on others without consideration, and for abandoning Mao rather than seeing things through to completion. Will the same thing happen to him? Regardless, Lelouch stays holed up on campus, which Nunnally appreciates, as he sends the Black Knights out in search of Mao. C2, wearing another cool fit, goes out and does her own investigation. Lelouch meets up with Millie, who, as an Ashford, knows his true identity and is concerned about whether anyone else has found out. She makes an attempt at pass at him as she reveals she has a meeting for a potential suitor and an arranged marriage later, before they are interrupted by Shirley. Lelouch is forced to pass off her amnesic state as a mere fight between the two of them and asks her and the rest of the student council to play along. Meanwhile, Suzaku discovers Lloyd is an Earl when he inquires about gaining an audience with Yuffie. Also, he has a medical examination, and the doctor questions if he's pushing himself too hard because of the weight of his father's legacy. Elsewhere, Violetta wakes up at Ogi's place. While he is suspicious of her and nearly holds her at gunpoint for questioning, she too has lost her memories. That night, Lelouch gains confirmation from the Black Knights that they have not located Mao while he's in the midst of burning Shirley's diary. C2 returns with little success herself and suggests the two of them team up. Just then, Mao calls Lelouch and asks to speak to C2. After the conversation, C2 says she's leaving Lelouch for Mao after all, but it shouldn't be a problem since they were never friends anyway. Lelouch tries to use his Geass to stop her, but naturally she's immune to the effects. This means she's immune to Mao's Geass too, which is one of the reasons he's so attached to her. Along with the fact that because she contracted him when he was a young orphan boy, she ended up as his only friend and some sort of weird mother-girlfriend to him. While C2 meets up with Mao at an amusement park, she attempts to shoot him but cannot bring herself to do so. Mao shoots her in the limbs instead, and then pulls out a chainsaw as he explains how he needs to dismember her so she can be discreetly transported to the nice home he bought for them in Australia. Meanwhile, Lelouch talks with Diethard over the phone about his plans to reorganize the structure of the Black Knights. Lelouch has concerns over the potential Diethard as a Britannian spy, but ultimately finds him too capable to dispose of. After hanging up with him, however, he realizes that C2 recorded a conversation with Mao, I think, and that she was really trying to protect him. Before Mao can actually cut up C2, Lelouch's face pops up on the big screen nearby, claiming to be hacking it from Tokyo Tower, which is outside of Mao's range. Lelouch tells Mao that he alone knows C2's true name, which causes Mao to lose his cool and slash at the screen. Consequently, he doesn't notice as the cops show up and surround him. Lelouch, disguised as a cop himself, shows up to rescue C2, and reveals that what was on screen was actually recording. Additionally, C2 had told him that Mao's range shrinks depending on his focus, meaning the distraction of the screen means he did not detect the cops until it was too late. Mao tries to tell the cops that Lelouch is in fact Zero, but Lelouch's Geass means they shoot him instead. After a helicopter ride, C2 tells Lelouch about her backstory with Mao, as well as her regrets over it. Lelouch promises her that he will not allow himself to fall in the same way. When C2 wonders if it's out of pity, he replies that it's a contract of his own. The two shake hands and affirm their partnership.
Yeah, this, I think... well, first of all, we find out that Mao is Chinese, which,
Not a great vibe there.
It's referred by, a guy he tries to get weapons from, but, regardless. And we do get in flashbacks, C2 in, traditional Chinese dress, which is fun, but, otherwise... Don't care for it. Don't care for Mao's, weird yandere guy thing.
Yeah. No, I totally
even though him pulling out a chainsaw is kind of funny in, a really corny way. And I don't know what to make of her backstory where she contracts with a random orphan and gives him mind reading powers and then makes it so he's unable to have any social relations at all, except for her. And then he becomes his mom girlfriend, despite her age. It's this is bizarre grooming adjacent question mark. I don't know what to think of this. This is weird.
Yeah, we can maybe we can come back to this at some point later in the show when they're more upfront about what C2's deal is.
Yeah, right now it's just this is weird, and I don't. It makes Mao just became a lot less interesting, and this character just I do think the thing of he can't turn it off, so he wears the weird headphones that just say C2's the voice over and over again, and also the shades is an interesting fun wrinkle. I'm reminded of a weird poll, but in the Nisio shonen manga series Medaka Box, there's the one character who has the power to read minds, but they can't turn it off. But then they meet the one guy whose power, who's just he's so egotistical that he drowns out every other voice by just thinking about himself. And so he's I will be by this person because I can be mentally at peace with this guy.
Right.
Deckbox is fun. I haven't read it in like a decade though, but you know.
Yes, I think the idea of having like another Geass guy who kind of works as a vector to push Lelouch and C2 closer together is not inherently bad, but I don't think they really end up landing
and
the
I also,
execution on Mao.
I also was like, I was a bit like, it was a bit messy trying to explain like what Lelouch's problems were, where he's like, okay, you gave someone else powers, and it turns out the powers fuck you up, so maybe I could be fucked up, and also you evidently abandoned them at some point, and you know, you could either would have stuck with them to the end, or you could have like, if they were too dangerous, like taken them out, which you know, then he wouldn't have been able to had to do the things he did to Shirley, basically, is what he's saying. And that's like a lot of friction. Like you just like, you know, I could be like a Mao, and also if you had actually dealt with Mao properly, then maybe Shirley would still be okay. Which I think this is like valid and adds a wrinkle, but you know, we do get that like at this point C2 clearly has something kind of attachment to Lelouch, and then by the end of the episode they do affirm that they are partners. So I do like that like she plays up their affable like sniping at each other relationship to just be like, as me as protecting, was like, oh okay, I'll betray you now, don't worry about it. But actually, and that's fun and good. Like I could tell that was happening immediately, especially because like right before that conversation, he's like, hey, we should team up, maybe. Because they basically like split up and do nothing the whole day. Also, I like the scene where C2 like interrogates the person with like kicking him basically, and her fit is really nice in that scene. Appreciating her varied outfits in the show in this part. It is weird that like they say in her interrogation of the guy, they mentioned the term Asians as if that's distinct from Japanese, and I'm like, this what do they mean by this? It's like nothing really, but it is like, what do they mean by this? I also like that we immediately get that actually no, erasing Shirley's memory does just is not a fix it button, because it creates other problems, like when she's at school and has perfectly normal friendships with everyone else, and suddenly you have to be like, well, why aren't you interacting with Lelouch normally? And he has to be like, we're fighting, and she's pretending she doesn't know me, and he has to somehow convince everyone else in their friend group to go along with this. And it's I like that they're like, there was no clean fix. This is a thing he has to still deal with, and put a pin in it. It might be a thing that comes back later, but like it's just like it's still a second point. It can't just like solve. You can't just like fix it button it. We can get to the Ogi stuff for next episode, because this is just, you know, there's more stuff later.
Yeah.
It's fucked up. He just burns Shirley's diary, but definitely the set piece of him like hacking into the screen and then Mao slashing the chainsaw is pretty good, even if like the other things around it are maybe less good. And I do like the added wrinkle of like, yeah, that was a recording. You're just so one note minded that I could just predict you were gonna say.
Yes, I thought that was a very fun payoff.
It's also fun that like the Geass helicopter pilot's like, yeah, I dropped him off on the roof, and he's like, wait, I thought you were gonna take him to the hospital. Just see. Yeah, we get like Lelouch. I think interesting like Lelouch like turtles himself in the school with like security cameras as just like, I don't know what to do with Mao, so I'm just gonna hide here for a bit. Which does mean he actually gets to interact with his classmates a bit more than usual. There's more follow up to this in like at the start of the next episode, but I may as well just talk about it here because it's like not that important. But like I like the thing. Sure. We get more of Diethart's integration into the Black Knights as like he's doing logistic stuff. He's like, here's my suggestions for like reorganizing the Black Knights into like cells and stuff like that. And he talks about later at the start of the episodes like different logistic stuff that I don't quite understand because a lot of exposition, so we don't need to get to the details of it. But he's just saying like, you know, setting all these things up, they put into place, and it makes like different cells are also like sufficiently disconnected so that when the Britannians capture, they aren't able to do stuff like that. I think that's interesting that he's like doing real insurgency stuff in a way that's like true of like real, I think, clandestine groups, but also like I like that Lelouch is like, can I trust this guy? Because he's like, you know, a Britannian, he's like a media guy with all this information, and he could be a spy, but also he's like, Lelouch is like, he's too useful to me right now. Like, he's too good. He feels like too valuable an asset for me to like, get rid of or like dispose of. So I want to keep on to him. And this is also funny, like, I think I just realized in the course of our conversation, like, oh, in some ways, like, Diethard is almost like to Lelouch what Zero is to the rest of the Black Knights in some ways, where he's like, this guy could be a liability, but also he's too good at what he does in a way that's helpful that maybe I want to keep him around a bit, despite the risks. And I think that's also is like minor parallels there that I think is interesting.
Right.
I'm still not entirely sure what his thing is, because I'm like, the exposition at the start of that episode where he talks about like all the things they were doing is like, well, that's a lot of technobabble that I don't understand, but I got the gist of it. But you know, I'll be curious to see what his role continues to be in the organization as the show goes on. But also after he hangs up with Diethard is when he realizes that the conversation between Mao and C2 was recorded, I guess, and that he was able to listen back to it. And I'm very confused. Like, I assumed that just for process of elimination that C2 must have recorded it, but I wasn't sure. And also, dunking on the wiki again, the wiki says that, oh, Lelouch recorded it. And I'm like, did he do it but didn't bother listening back to it after? Because that sounds like it's wrong. I think you're just wrong.
Yeah.
I have to assume that's what happened because, like, you know, it's not like Lelouch was like, oh, he betrayed me. Anyway, I'm going to not listen to this thing that I definitely recorded specifically to keep track of the stuff. But, yeah. I think of the 3 Mao episodes is the weakest one. I think the next one is better, even if it is a bit like, oh, come on, I can't believe you're still alive after that. But it's worth it for the next episode, I think. I think we can just move on to that episode, because I think there isn't necessarily as much about this episode particularly. So episode 16.
Let's go.
Oh wait, is that me?
Yeah, because
yes.
I did 15.
Oh, right. You're right. I'm very smart. Okay. Diethard briefs Lelouch on the various updates of the Black Knights. Firstly, the Gurren has been fully repaired, and Kallen is doing tests with it. Additionally, the developer of the suit, Dr. Rakshata, is on her way to Japan as part of a collaboration between India, which in the show's lore is part of the Chinese Federation for some reason, and Kyoto. Second, the Black Knights have been spreading or securing more warehouses across Japan, and while there are some crackdowns by Britannia, the siloing off of information under the new organization structure has prevented any information leaks. That was the thing I was talking about just a minute ago. While this conversation is happening, Lelouch is seeing off C2, who is headed for China as ambassador for them. Unbeknownst to them both, the Mao is somehow still alive. And observes them from a distance. Using the fact that C2 is out of the country as an opportunity, he then goes and kidnaps them nonetheless. At school, Suzaku and Lelouch meet up for the first time in a while. With Suzaku complaining he hasn't had a chance to see him lately since they've both been so busy. Lelouch invites him to dinner so he can see Nunley too. Rival shows up for some reason in the middle of the conversation to complain that Millie is meeting with a new suitor that isn't him, but Lelouch dismisses him and goes on to tell Nunley about their dinner plans. As for Millie herself, her suitor is none other than Lloyd, who is insisted on meeting her at his lab while he's in the middle of working. Cecily comes in with tea, but Lloyd is rather skip the formalities and get married now, if at all. which you know, I don't know if this is going to be a plot that comes up later, but I thought I'd mention it just in case. More importantly, Lelouch gets home to find a photo of Nunnally ties up. Mao calls Lelouch on his phone to taunt him, and this is the part where I realize it's the I'm at Soup episode. Mao gives Lelouch a 5-hour time limit to find Nunnally, and Lelouch scrambles all over campus in search of them, assuming Mao must be on school grounds, given the range of his powers. Elsewhere, Ogi comes home to Villetta being his niece, Villetta being his nice and friendly housewife, doing his cooking for him. Even so, Ogi cannot fully trust her and reviews the footage from the security cameras he placed around the house to observe her. Meanwhile, Cornelia and Yuffie spend time affectionately together in the royal garden, which is apparently built by Clovis in the image of Empress Marianne's villa. This causes Cornelia to assert that victory in Japan is necessary not just for Clovis' memory, but for Lelouch and Annalise too. Lelouch's desperate search takes him briefly to the student council room, where Suzaku notices immediately that something is up and intuits Nunnally is in danger. He helps Lelouch realize that the call was given from the school sewer system, and the two hack into an elevator to reach it. Upon getting into the right floor, they notice a machine gun attached to a security camera, which Suzaku deals with by doing some ninja bullshit and spin kicking it somehow. They eventually find Nunnally under pendulum bomb. While Lelouch wants to be cautious, Suzaku asks him to trust him in his training. Lelouch finds Mao alone in a chapel, where he has set up another chess game with a scale tied to the bomb's detonator. Lelouch tries to keep his mind busy to throw Mao off, but he can't beat his mind-reading powers, and he ultimately breaks. Mao refuses to accept a surrender and instead moves to trigger the bomb, despite Lelouch's screams. Rather than an explosion, however, Suzaku bursts in through the window and grabs Mao, declaring him under arrest. Suzaku explains to a bewildered Lelouch that he was actually just following his plans, having somehow disarmed the bomb. I do not know how this happens, with the way they explain it in the episode. And then came in when he heard Lelouch scream at the signal. Nunnally herself was picked up by Sayako. Lelouch remembers everything and realizes he uses his Geass on himself to temporarily forget as a means of fooling Mao. Before Lelouch can gloat too hard, though, Mao uses the Geass to reveal that Suzaku was actually the one who killed his father the whole time. Under the belief that if Japan surrendered instead of resisting the invasion, more lives would be saved. He also argues that Suzaku's self-righteousness is merely for his own ego, and he also recklessly pushes himself out of a sort of death drive as a means of atonement. Lelouch uses Geass to stop Meow from talking. Mao tries to escape, but is confronted by C2, who wishes him goodbye as she shoots him in the neck and kills him for good. Lelouch confirms that, given his current mental state, Suzaku saw none of this, and the episode ends.
Yeah, what did you think of that one?
This is a fun episode, especially because I'm like, oh, fine, I get to see the I'm at the Superstore episode in its context. If you're aware of that internet joke.
Yes,
okay,
yes.
Good. I was like, I hope I have to explain the I'm at Soup.
No.
I ended up going to watch the original video of that after this episode, and understated a bit in that is that immediately before that conversation, Bao calls Lelouch to say, haha, I got Nunnally, and Lelouch is like, not now, Mom, Nunnally's been kidnapped, and hangs up to call Suzaku. Though I will say, having watched the rest of the video, I'm like, well, a lot of this is actually pretty tasteless otherwise, but, shocker. Shocker, mid-2000s abridged series on YouTube has really badly aged mid-2000s humor. But,
Yeah, I fucking believe that.
Where the fuck do we begin? Why can Suzaku do that?
I don't know. It's really fucking funny. Is the thing.
The machine gun, and he just like dodges the bullet, does a wall run, and then spin kicks it. What do you mean?
It's fucking
and then
perfect.
he cuts the wire by following the pendulum swing or something? ? I don't know what they meant by this. Yeah, I'm not really sure.
that bit was very silly, brackets neutral, silly in the sense that it's hard to follow.
Yeah.
Mal continues to be Mal, but at least he's gone now.
I was a bit confused by like the chess match where like he mentioned something like, "Oh, you have the two wolves inside you. One of them is the gay critic, and the other one is the critic who criticizes the gay critic or whatever." I don't know. I didn't quite get it, but like, is something about like him being busy. There's a bit where Mao drops his coin, and I was like, was this significant, or was he just doing that to like fuck with his attention? I didn't know. It was a bit unclear. I think the main takeaway is like, I kind of figured, oh wait, he uses Geass on himself. I didn't know he could do that, which obviously he can't do that again because like the way his Geass works is he can only work on one person ever, as far as we know. But also I was like, oh, you can temporarily forget memories with the Geass, and then you can remember it later. I wonder if this might come back later for another ongoing plot point.
Possibly.
Yeah, there's a bit where like C2 goes to China for a bit, but then comes back. So she does in the next episode. She's like, "Sorry, I didn't actually get the chance to be an ambassador." And Lelouch is like, "Don't worry about it." I like now we can actually talk about it. We can talk about like Oki keeping Valletta at his house. I like that rather than just doing the stereotypical like, oh, they're romantic interests now because of her lack of memories. He's like, well, she's Britannian, so I can't trust her. And so he does just like he does almost like pull a gun on her when she wakes up. And two, he does just like keep security cameras around the house watching her, which is like fucked up, but also if you're like, well, this could be an enemy and maybe I want information on it, like I think it's like an interesting wrinkle. Like he can't bring himself to trust her even though she's going full housewife mode. She does have like the added thing of like, oh yeah, I'm Britannian, so I can't like leave your house because you're like you live right in the middle of like Japanese like land at the moment.
Right.
I like that Suzaku immediately is like, okay, well, something's up with Nunley. And also points out like, like Lelouch is off his game because of Nunley is involved, and like, well, normally you'd be able to tell that there if you'd notice the running water and like use that as a clue, and you're clearly like off your game. So like that's more.
Yes.
One, Suzaku knows his boyfriend very well, and two, Lelouch being an infallible, Lelouch is a very fallible tactical genius who, has his limitations.
Yes, he's a very fallible character, and I think I prefer the show for that.
Hot take. I like when characters are fallible and have flaws and aren't just fucking Kiriyamato.
Yeah.
Also, I enjoy we get this episode of them being like finally being the dynamic duo once again, and like, oh man, if they teamed up, they could do anything. Setting up, of course, things to go a different way next episode. This is like in some way like the dramatic culmination of the quote unquote Mao arc, while also being like, but apart because I like Suzaku a lot more a lighthearted episode than it could have been, and it after like all the stuff with Shirley and C2, just having like the kind of a win with the two them teaming up is nice. But then even then we get like the wind taken out of sails with like the Suzaku reveal at the end, which I'm like, do we talk about that now? Because like maybe we should just talk about it now.
Next episode is probably
I guess fine because like we get a bit more of that at the start of the next episode, and then also we get more Suzaku stuff next episode as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is like, the big twist I actually didn't know about going into the show. So, a lot of the show I managed to keep myself unspoiled on, which is nice. Besides the ending, there's like still one scene that I know about, and it hasn't happened yet. We've seen the table scene, so and I think the outstanding scene that I have seen that I don't know the context for is like a more impactful story moment scene, but like I don't know in what context it comes from. So we will see when we get there. I'll let you know when it's there. For anyone who's like watching along for the first time, like I am.
Yeah, sounds good.
Lelouch screaming is a much spread around image I've seen on the internet for a long time. So I was like, oh, that's where that face of him comes from.
Right, that completely tracks.
No idea if the Millie Lloyd stuff's gonna go anywhere, but we shall see. But also, I feel like that ties into like stuff like, oh, by the way, Lloyd's a noble. He has a title. He's an earl. And it's like, well, okay, well, we shall see where that goes. Lloyd, I'm very curious what the show does with Lloyd because he's very clearly he's a funny guy, and he's like Suzaku's boss in an affable way, like kind of is friendly to Suzaku, but also kind of uses him like a tool, which I guess is kind of Lelouch like for his guys. But like he's also like pretending noble ability. Suzaku's like a cop, and so I can't see him being like a hero by the end of the show, and like he's coded to be like a vengeful villain, but we shall see. Cecily is definitely more presented as more heroic by comparison, but also given her own allegiances, we shall also see. There's a lot of show left across both seasons.
There is, in fact, a lot of show left.
Yeah. I think that's it for that episode. I think we covered most of the things, especially we're going to save the Suzaku discussion for the final episode. So take it away.
Okay, let's go. Lelouch tries to comfort Suzaku by arguing the lie that his father died by suicide, which is a necessary fiction spread by both the Britannians and the Japanese. Which Suzaku appreciates. Even so, Lelouch later finds himself lost in thought over the burden Suzaku has been carrying, reflecting on how difficult it was for him to kill Clovis. Unfortunately, these thoughts are coming at a poor time since Lelouch is currently modeling for an art class. Incidentally, it's apparently Art Week, which was declared by Clovis at some point. Alongside this, a new art gallery is opened, and Yuffie has been tasked with awarding a prize to one of the paintings on display. While her favorite is the one depicting the traditional Japanese countryside, she is informed that one is not actually eligible for a prize given the artist's quarter Japanese heritage, and that it's only in the gallery as a diversity inclusion to begin with. Let's see. Later, Ogi gets a visit from the Four Holy Swords, who arrive with instructions from Kyoto for a new mission. You see, 2 episodes ago, Toto and the Four Swords met at the Kirigiri grave when they were ambushed by Britannians. Toto allowed himself to be captured to help the others to escape and is set to be executed. Now Kyoto wants the Knights to help him escape. Lelouch agrees to the operation over the phone, and preparations get underway. Later still, Lelouch spends time with Suzaku and Nanoi, and wonders if his sister is safer in Suzaku's hands. Before he can ask him to be her knight, however, Suzaku is called for work by Cecile, so Lelouch, sorry, I accidentally tabbed out. Where the fuck was I? So Lelouch asks to talk about, so Lelouch asks to talk to him about it later. Also on campus, Shirley contemplates the sketch she did of Lelouch in art class before noticing the old page from her diary caught between some furniture. As the knights prepare for their operation in the evening, the four swords debate whether they align with them ideologically, but agree to follow Toto wherever he goes regardless. Also, Rakshada introduces herself and gives everyone new pilot suits. Meanwhile, under Cornelia's orders, Suzaku has been assigned the duty of executing Toto, who apparently trained Suzaku in combat when he was a child. Before the necessary paperwork can be arranged, however, the Black Knight's raid begins. When Zero breaks Toto out of his cell, Toto asks if he wants another miracle of Itsukushima, where Toto was able to defeat the Britannian army. Zero counters that rather than being a miracle, it was a tactical victory, and eventually convinces Toto that he has a responsibility to keep fighting rather than allow himself to follow Kadase into death. Also, Toto gets a new robot, and it's pretty cool. Yuffie is stuck in the art museum and is denied the ability to answer any of the questions by the press by her aides, much to her frustration. She also struggles with being made to give the prize to the correct painting despite her own wishes. However, before the prize can be given, the news of the prison break interrupts the ceremony. At the same time, Suzaku reaches the battlefield on Lancelot and takes on Toto and the Four Swords. Lelouch has apparently been reviewing the tapes and is able to predict the Lancelot's movements, allowing the Four Swords to get the upper hand. In the course of the battle, Toto slices the top of Lancelot's cockpit off, revealing Suzaku to be the pilot inside. This shocks everyone, but Lelouch most of all. He is no longer able to give orders to anyone. Toto reveals himself to Suzaku, and the two fight as they debate reform versus revolution. With Zero now silent, the Four Swords take the initiative to try and dispatch Suzaku all at once. Zero halts them by ordering retreat, given the coincidental arrival of the Britannian reinforcements. Toto takes this as a sign of Zero's tactical acumen and agrees, leaving a heavily damaged Lancelot behind. At the museum, the press chastises Suzaku for not chasing after them. Yuffie announces to everyone that Suzaku, and not Cornelia's handpicked candidates, is to be her knight. Later, Ogi and Colin express concern to each other that Zero has not left his mech since they returned. Alone in his cockpit, Lelouch laughs to himself maniacally.
Yeah, this is why I went when I said we accidentally picked a good place to end off. Because I was like, oh, this is a...
Yeah. This is a juicy one.
Like, you know, I think, like, most shows are... Because of the core system, it's like, oh, most shows breaking up into, like, 12 or 6 is, like, reasonable. But so, like, I wasn't sure how breaking up into, like, 8 would do. But so far it's been worked out pretty well for this show. Just in terms of, like, oh, there's major status quo shifts, even if, like, other ones happen in the meantime. I feel like because Suzaku might be the longer discussion, maybe I want to get to the other stuff first. About to say anything?
Sorry. Could you try that again?
Well, I was just gonna say, like, the Suzaku discussion is probably to be the meatier one, so maybe I just want to get some other stuff out of the way first.
Yeah. What else you got?
I like Lelouch's goofy ass smile when he's posing.
Yes, it's very funny.
I like the 4 heavenly swords and Toto's new robot. Toto gets like a one with hair too. I think it's called the Gekka. They're pretty cool. You'll notice my summary where I held off on a subplot point where I was like, well, I'll just put this in this one because it doesn't come up again for a few episodes. But yes, in like episode 15 or whatever, there is just like a scene where like they meet at the gravesite and get attacked by the Britannians. I'm like, oh, okay, this is coming later. I was a bit confused by the conversation Lelouch has with Toto. Like the meaning of the words, even I got like the overall substance, were like Toto kind of has a death wish at this point because like Katase is dead, but like Lelouch tries to convince him like, hey, you're good at what you do, and you
should like help.
Yeah, you have a responsibility, which Sharasambo also had, but But yeah, he does manage to convince Toto, like, hey, you're good at what you do, and you have a responsibility to help the nation. So, up and at him. And Toto is somehow convinced of this. But, I do like that, like, also, like, everyone likes Toto for pulling off a miracle, and Lelouch is like, no, you're just good at what you do. Like, that wasn't a miracle. You were just, like, that was just, like, skill. which I think is like an important part of the framing of this, because I think that's part of like why it isn't like directly isn't like the most isn't the thing that immediately causes Toto to like turn, but I think it's the thing that like puts a chink in the armor. Just like, oh, you're not viewing me as just like another miracle maker. Like you have some belief in what I can actually do on some level beyond that.
Right.
Is a funny bit, just like the art gallery, and Yuffie's like, why can't I pick this one? And it's just like, no, that's just the DEI pick. You pick this really gaudy picture of your dad instead. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just reviewing my own notes again. Yeah, we get the bit of like Shirley is like feels a way about her Lelouch art and then stumbles upon the scrapped notebook page, and so it's like, okay, they're obviously setting up that like this is not going to be sustainable at the status quo. Like the memories are going to come back at some point, is my guess. It's just a matter of when or how things shake down. But you know,
Right.
we haven't seen the, you know, still off in the distance, but at the very least, that's my read of what's being set up. I mean, you know, maybe not a hard read to call, but you know, that's just my cold shot at the moment. Wait, I forgot to mention last episode when Yuffie and Cornelia are chilling in the garden, like Cornelia just like pinches her hips, and I'm like, that's
Yes, that was also like, what are we doing here?
like her putting her hand on the cheek is one thing, which is like still crazy, but once she squeezing those hips, I'm like, okay, come on, it's crazy. One thing that made me do question mark was when the four heavenly swords are like debating like, are we with the Black Knights ideologically? And like one of them says, well, we're not nationalists. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You're part of the Japanese Liberation Force. What do you mean?
That is a great question. I don't have the answer to.
Like, obviously, you know, we mentioned, I think, last time, like, or if not, then, you know, it's just a thing that people generally should know if they're leftists, like, the nationalism of the colonized versus the nationalism of the colonizer, and obviously in the context of the show, Japan is a colonized, even if in real life they are still a colonizer, so, you know, the fraughtness there, but, like, I do have to wonder if, just maybe it's a translation thing, that could be a case, but if we might, if we're assuming that is not just a weird translation quirk, is it just like the case that like the writers assumed a particular meaning of nationalism, especially, and I guess like in the Japanese context it would be reactionary nationalism in real life?
That would make sense. I think that's a pretty reasonable.
Yeah. But even so, it does feel like wild to me that it's like, oh yeah, the Japanese Liberation Force is not like that, unless they're like making like an arbitrary distinction between nationalism and patriotism, which I guess they, in a liberal framework, they could say like, you know, we're not nationalists, we are like patriots of our liberation, which I guess makes sense. But like, you know, out of context, without like thinking it over in this conversation, I was like, what do you mean? Do you know what your group is called?
No, I totally get you.
We got Rakshata for the first time. She's these like, you know, fun scientist girl. We've got teased of her before, not just like with Diethard last episode, but also like earlier on we get like Lloyd reviewing the footage of you know, the Gurren and being like, well, this seems like Rakshata's work. So there's obviously like a, you know, the rival scientists who have the shared past thing happening there too.
Right.
No, I do like the funny thing of like Lelouch as Zero shaking her hand and being like, you know, I'm a fan of your academic work, and she's like, yeah, whatever. Check out these robots I got instead.
Yeah.
Also, South Asian representation, which is nice. can always be fraught, but and I guess I don't know. Maybe in this case it might be fraught. Like I don't know, but I'm not gonna be the one to call that out in this case. She's cool.
No, I think that.
See, is there anything else? I guess is like. We basically have the Suzaku stuff left. So I guess I'll lead into that first by saying, when the prison raid happens, it is a really funny bit that Lloyd is like, I guess it's pretty convenient that our only means of transportation is the Lancelot truck, so we always have it.
Yes.
I think that's a good bit. But yeah, I guess we get both like more expansion on Suzaku's killing of his father, as well as the motivations for that, as well as his ideological battle with Toto, and finally the thing that's getting set up, like which has been set for a while, that he's like becoming Yuffie's knight, and that both because he is in the like, it's weird that Lelouch knew he was technically in the army and like had feelings about it, but like because he's specifically the Lancelot as well, like as the elite guy who's constantly getting his way. And as we find out later, no one but Yuffie and like the people in the press room know this. Like Suzaku doesn't know this, and Lelouch don't know this either, that he's appointed as their knight at this point. That divide is going to become even starker.
Totally.
Star-crossed lovers, etc., etc. But yeah, let's start with like Suzaku killing his dad.
Yeah, I think Suzaku's backstory is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think it is an interesting wrinkle that, like, oh yeah, he's an absolute pacifist because he did. He's always kind of had like a pacifist streak, but in his sort of like pursuit of absolute pacifism, kind of like accidentally on purpose kills his dad, because his dad was like, you have to fight the Empire, or you'll be like at best you'll be peace and chains, which is not real peace. Like you destructive violence, but like in Suzaku's Zoo, it's like, no, war means more people die. So if you surrender, less people will die, and then like the ghettoization and like secular colonialism, all the police crackdowns, like, oh yeah, the colonizer uses the police, which is basically just like the army, but you're disarmed, basically. An equal advantage. And it's like he does not view things that way, especially because now he is part of the cops. Which is that naivety leads to like the colonization of Japan, which admittedly a bit simplistic. Like the idea that like, oh, the whole thing of Kirigiri is like, oh, he called for resistance, and then everyone thinks he like died by suicide and like as a coward and has allowed surrender, and then like for political expedience, like the Japanese and Britannians were like, no, that's what happened, but really his son killed him. And meanwhile, I'm like, what? They didn't have another prime minister who would keep the fight going, or did the one immediately after capitulate or something?
Right.
But yeah, I think like we've seen some shots of like Suzaku seeing like as a child with Nunnally and Lelouch seeing the bodies piled up, and like how this may have framed his worldview, but also like the show is definitely, and I think like the fact that he killed his father is part of the problem, problematizing his worldview. Is like, oh, you live in a cartoon world if there's like actual view of justice. Like the real world doesn't work like that, which is true and correct. And we shall see how things shake out. But just like the violence didn't stop. It's just like what the form of violence took. But like in some sense, like Suzaku can only see that in a limited worldview, and he still is like, well, I don't like the Britannians doing police brutality, but it's bad if the other guys also do some violence because it disturbs the peace. And what is the peace? And that's basically the crux of like what the whole conversation with Toto is, where like Toto's like, well, now you're just like a sucker for the status quo, and meanwhile, Suzaku's like, you can't just impose your will on society. You have to like get the support of the people to like change society. And Toto's like, well, okay, do it. Which I think is a good throwing down the gauntlet of just like, okay, if you want to change society, then change the minds of society. And Suzaku, at least, I don't know to what degree the show will sync this, but like Suzaku's binary is like, when you change society's mind, it's through non-violence and through the channels. And meanwhile, when you struggle, like through violent struggle, through revolutionary struggle, that's like, that's like, one is like horrible methods, but also that's like, not trying to accept society. And also worth noting, this society he says like like he acts like I wish I had screenshots of this. I could like review what he says, but he says like something along the fact of like you have to like you can't just like reject society or something, like as if like the world they live in is not less than a decade old, and like Suzaku was 10 and is now 17, so like for him that was like half a lifetime, but for people like Toto, like most of their life was in a different world. And so like the idea that like, oh well, the Britannians came and now the world changed and that's the way things are now, is basically Suzaku's worldview. And like, oh what, you can't change it? Or also like, I don't know, it's obviously well, Suzaku is a little too liberal goody two shoes, and his obviously his non-violence is constantly being put to the test of actual reality. I'm trying to think what else. I don't know, do you have any other thoughts of like this thing on your end? Like obviously keep accounting for the fact that spoilers.
No, I think you kind of hit it. I think it's interesting stuff. You hit the like substance of it in good ways.
Yeah, I think he's like Suzaku says you can't deny society exists, and you have to like get approval to change it, and like he like rejects the idea that like violent struggle against the violent system is itself like a form of like trying to change society, or like it neglects that like people do support the Black Knights, what they do, like they are getting support of the society, and also he's kind of just like, oh this settler, in a settler colonial context, do you need the consent of the colonized as well to liberate the colonized? Do you need the consent of the colonizer to gain the consent of the colonized to liberate the colonized? Because he's basically saying like, well, have you asked Israelis what they think of Palestinian liberation? Basically, is what he's saying. Which to be clear also applies to like Canada, the US as well, but like Israel is probably like the easier touchstone for people who are like less radically minded to think about. So just cover my bases, but I think it's a useful shorthand, especially in this show. Like I think it's interesting to visit the show in the current era when how people view these questions, like people viewing Palestine in the year Code Geass came out might respond the way Suzaku would, and obviously Democrats will still do, but like I think more people would challenge that framework, at least when it comes to Palestine, and maybe towards other issues. I think it's interesting to be in the current year where people are open their minds to like more like just in like radical solutions. That like visiting the show in that context is interesting, I think. In its 20th anniversary, I guess. And yeah, he's going to become the cop of all cops, which I guess is like a very Amaro thing to do. I don't know what else is there. Like, Toto being brought into the fold is fun. Like, which I think like will help give the Black Knights legitimacy, I assume, because he's like the one guy that, like, basically everyone in the JLF could count on, even in the early episodes. They're like, Toto, what do we do? And so now that he's on board, especially because like the JLF otherwise doesn't exist, so now they're like, it kind of makes the Black Knights the most legitimate and only game in town, in an interesting way. Obviously, the good melodrama of like Lelouch being mind broken at his best friend in the whole world being the cop among cops that he can't bring over to his side. Which, I presume the rest of the season, if not the rest of the show, will be about confronting. Hard to say it, because I have no idea what. Obviously, I know very little, so who knows where the end of season 1 goes and what that sets up for season 2. Yeah, we definitely have a lot of cases of like Lelouch just because of like something fucking up. Personally, he's unable to lead command. As mentioned in the summary, I do enjoy the fun wrinkle of like he's just like I can't deal with this. Let's retreat. And by coincidence, the Britannians are over the horizon, and Toto's like, yes, when a battle is unbeatable. Let's go.
Yeah.
It's just like, the timing was good enough that he's able to like maintain Toto's respect as like a commander. Yeah, I mean, you get like a through line of like just Yuffie, despite her technical authority, is unable to actually express her beliefs. Like the colonial system pushes back even against the princess in a way, and like
totally.
It's obviously like one, she's still a colonizer who's like co-opting a collaborator into her personal armed guard, but there's a degree to which she is like, in best intentions, trying to reject the colonial mentality for something more pluralistic by embracing Suzaku so publicly, in defiance of like all the other people around her who are trying to practice her in a certain way, which I think it's complicated in interesting ways they can chew on. And like we haven't like gotten enough of her to really comment on her other than she is a princess girl because she's like in the back lines, but I assume that now we'll get a lot more of her in the coming episodes.
Yeah, she may get more.
She may get more. Who can say? And yeah, things have been shaken up a whole bunch. And I also like part of the whole Suzaku thing is also just like, as super cop, he's like ordered by Cornelia to do the execution of Toto, which is like, here's another person you have to kill, in a way that's almost like repeating the killing of your father by under orders. Like, you're a cop, you can't escape this. And he does get like rescued at the last minute, and from that having to perform that duty. I'll be curious to know if he will have other situations like that in the future, or if like in some way he's rescued from actually having to confront these realities just by becoming Yuffie's knight, where he can just like be the white knight, do justice stuff in his fairyland without actually having to do the real dirty work of what it means to be a cop, basically. Under Cornelia. So many things to potentially chew on in the future. And yeah, I think that should be basically everything
I think I don't got much else.
Yeah. This might be excessive, but I do got like trivia stuff that I forgot to do for last time. Partly because I already did lengthy production history stuff, but also I can go for that if you want, like the staff stuff for these episodes.
Yeah, sure.
Would you rather not? I mean, it has been pretty long, but like, I'm like.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just kind of like I'm hitting my fatigue a little bit.
It is.
So maybe
Yeah.
maybe we save the staff stuff for next time.
Yeah, I guess like it. For all I know, the next discussion next time could be longer, but maybe I'll be better at making summaries next time. But also, I'm like, how important is this really? Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll say that mostly, almost all these episodes are written by Okichi. There's a few episodes that are not, which is interesting.
Right, that tracks.
And otherwise, I just think it's fun that Millie Ashford is voiced by Sayaka Ohara, which means she has the same voices as
I
Dietrich.
also think this is great.
The Golden Witch herself.
Very, very true.
Yeah.
She does have blonde hair.
Yeah. Yeah. To be honest, like I was also confused because, like, you know, I looked at both the storyboarders and the directors, and I almost feel like the storyboarders looked like they were higher status than the directors because, like, the storyboarders were like known guys. Like Goro Taniguchi was a storyboarder for episode 1, which means like, well, isn't that mean that he's like the real director in a way? Whereas all the other directors were like guys who didn't seem to have like Wikipedia links. But you know, I can look at that more.
Right.
It's not that important. You can look that stuff up there. It's just like for other pods, I usually do the production deep dive, but in this case, maybe it's like because there's like so many characters with voices and so many writing credits, it might just be excessive in the end of things. So we can just leave it at maybe it's just fine to leave it. Well, you know, it's mainly Taniguchi Okuchi joint in terms of things, and like obviously people are contributing, but like that's the main creative forces.
Right. If we're covering the compilation movies, maybe we do production history stuff on that episode just to give it like anything resembling sauce.
Yeah, I think that was our plan, just because those compilations.
Right, because they are different.
Yeah, the stories diverge into the sequels that they made after. So I'm like, well, we should, you know. That I remember.
Yeah, we could do the production history on that episode then, because otherwise that episode is gonna be like 20 minutes long. Because let me tell you, I know the differences, and they are technically important differences, but it's like 2 of them.
It's like a bullet point.
Yes.
Okay.
I could literally tell you what. Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let you watch it for yourself. But I could tell you what the difference is, and then we could just immediately move on.
Yeah. Yeah. It might that might be like a reason to like. Which, you know, I think I was like more hesitant to do at first, but like I'm more open to doing now. Like that may be a reason to just do Akira the Exile, because technically release order wise it comes in between, so that way we have a break between doing the show and then doing the movies that are the show again.
No, I think that might be a good shout, honestly.
Yeah. Like I was like a lot more hesitant to do Akira the Exile when I thought it had more episodes, and then I found out it was just an OVA that, like Gun of a Unicorn, took like a decade to actually just come out in completion, and so I was like, okay, that's actually pretty easy to do in like a month. So you know, that might be the plan.
Right.
But we still got a few months because we got like the rest of season 1 and season 2 to do. So
works for me.
Alrighty. I don't think we did, but I'm just gonna double check and double make sure, do my due diligence. Obviously, we got no emails, so we can just leave after 3 hours.
Okay. Yeah, you can KimmyCatherine.bluesky.social. That's my Blue Sky. Mismatchedwings.h.io. That's my itch. You can tell I'm tired.
Yeah. You can send email to ultrapod@gmail.com. We have a fund, Coffee, Ultra Fund. I guess this Blue Sky account would be ultraq.biscuit.social. That's QUE, obviously. And ultra_Q on Twitter if you're still on there for some reason. And that should be it. Next month we're finishing season 1 of the show.
Yeah. Look forward to that.
Also, need to just say, the fucking second AED of the show sucks. Like, it's not uncommon for a first AD to just be better than the second one and just be more iconic for obvious reasons, but like this one is just like unpleasant to listen to with my ears.
No, I kind of get you.
I think like I listened to it in like the 15th anniversary rebroadcast version, which had new OPs for some reason, had a better second OP. So maybe I'll use that for this episode. It is a travesty that they did replace the colors, but what can you do?
Right.
But yeah, I guess signing off, because it's 11 p.m. for me as well, so I'm also tired, to be honest. So, what's your sign? Say the sign off.
I'll see you in the depths of Atlantis.
And I'll see you in... Yeah, Shell, still. Can't think of a Code Geass themed one, so whatever. Bye.
Alright. Bye-bye.
モザイクかけら一つ一つつなぎ合わせて描いてゆくあなたがくれた出会いと別れもこんなはずじゃないそう思って寝るに目覚めればいつもの変わらないから周り意味もなく繰り返しモザイクかけら拾い集めてたうまく生きるための術いびつなそれが美しく見えたんだ強がりながらつまずきながら選び抜いた道の上で剥がれ落ちては埋まらないかけらそれぞれの意地を敷き詰めた世界誰にも譲れないものがあるはずなのに彩りを気にしてるモザイクかけらさまざまな色や形に見せられながら望みすぎてた若気の至りよ心の隙間愛のセメントを信じては流し込んで決して溶け合うことのないかけらコントラストが綺麗だから役にでこぼ